Recording in progress.
Okay, we good to go. I'd like to say good evening to everyone and welcome to the August the 24th board meeting here at the West Country Costa Unified School District. And we will get started this evening. We'll open up with the pledge allegiance. And then after that, we will do the land acknowledgement. And then we'll go with the procedures, and then we go from there. And let us stand for the pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Karkin, Ohlone peoples and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy.
All right, thank you. And once again, I'd like to say welcome to everyone to the board meeting for this evening. We're about to go into closed session, but before we do, the board is here to receive public comment on any closed session item that is agendized. The board will then adjourn to closed session and reconvene in open session to continue with the regular agenda at 6:30 p.m. If you are attending the meeting in person here at the John and you wish to make a public comment now on a closed session item, you need to submit an orange request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak. If participating by Zoom, you will need to raise your hand by clicking on the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9. If accessing the meeting by phone, there is no yielding a time to another speaker and there is no substitution of speaker permitted. Please finish up the orange card if you're in here and comment cards now if you are in the audience. And if you are in the Zoom or attending by phone, please get in line to speak by raising your Zoom hand now. To access translation of the agenda, click the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Meeting interpretation services are available by Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. May I have the roll call for this evening?
Sir, thank you. President Christian,
Present.
Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Good afternoon, President.
Trustee Reckler,
Good afternoon, I'm present.
Trustee Smith Folds.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon. Present.
And Trustee Phillips is not here at the moment. So 4 trustees here, 1 absent at this moment.
All right, thank you, thank you. Thank you, and now we'll proceed on. We're going to the disclosure items to be discussed in closed session, the government code 54957-7. Tonight, the board will consider liability claim, public employee appointment, student discipline, public employee performance evaluation, conference with labor negotiation, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint, and then we will adjourn back to open session at 6:30 p.m. Are there any public comments this evening?
There's no public comment.
All right, thank you. And if there's no public comment, at this time, we will convene in closed session. See you in a minute. Thank you. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, we're still in closed session and we're gonna be back out shortly, so within an hour. Thank you. Clarification, I'm sorry. We will be back at 7:30. To let everyone know, we'll be back in at 7:30. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The board meeting this evening. I want to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We just came out of closed session. And now we're going in open session of the Wednesday, August 24th regular scheduled meeting. To access translation of the agenda, click on the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Meeting interpretation services are available in the Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, the manner in which the Board of Education meetings are conducted has changed. Thank you for in advance for your understanding and cooperation as we experiment with new ways to conduct the people's business while allowing for the maximum participation and adhering to our values of respect and safety for the community. And at this time, Dr. Hurst will introduce the new trustees to the board.
I'd like to say good evening to everyone. It is certainly my honor, my privilege to introduce our new student trustees. I'd first like to introduce student trustee CJ Miles. She's a senior at De Anza High School. And we did ask her just a few questions. She certainly has a desire to be a criminal justice, a juvenile defense attorney. And she wants to be a student trustee, to be a representative of students and student voice. So we just want to share that we are so happy to have student trustee CJ Miles here with us. And we also have student trustee Evelyn Sampagna. She's a senior at Middle College High School. And she wants to serve in her community and to make change within her community. When I asked her about why she wants to be a student trustee, she says she desires to be a voice in the community and to be a role model. So again, we're so happy to have both of you here serving in the role of trustees.
All right, thank you. And we want the board welcome our new trustees, and it's good. We thank you for serving and being part with us. And just to finish up the procedures for this evening, we will give out closed session and comments. Dr. Hurst.
Thank you so much, sir. So we wanted to share a few report outs from closed session regarding agenda item A6. The board voted to reject the claim presented on behalf of Maria Mueller, number 608931, dated 7/7/22, related to alleged medical benefits and wage loss. The vote was as follows. Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy, yes. Trustee Phillips was not here at the time, so he is absent. Trustee Reckler, yes. Trustee Smith-Folds, yes. And President Christian, yes. We also want to report out closed session item, student discipline, action taken regarding case number 21-2204, re-entry of student. And the trustees voted as follows. President Christian, yes. Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy, yes. Trustee Phillips, yes. Trustee Reckler, yes. Trustee Smith-Folds, yes. We also want to report out the board unanimously approved Dr. Sylvia Greenwood as our Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. And it was a unanimous approval. So congratulations, Dr. Greenwood. We also would like to report out, so I'm going to make a correction. It was an interim associate superintendent of human resources. And then I also wanted to report out an interim director of human resources, Jawan Eldridge, and the board did approve, but the vote was as follows. Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy, yes. Trustee Reckler, yes. Trustee Smith-Folds, no. Trustee Phillips, yes. And President Christian, yes. So it did pass, and that concludes our report out from closed session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to report out the information pertaining the evaluation of the superintendent. And I'm just going to take it and give you the information. To report back, the board had conducted a performance evaluation of the superintendent using a rubric that allows for the following potential rating: exceptional, above, satisfactory, satisfactory needs, improvement, and unsatisfactory. The board unanimously gave the superintendent a rating of satisfactory. And that's from the evaluation. All right. And now we will proceed on with the rest of the meeting. And now we are going to public comment for this evening. And so get in line and be ready to make your public comment, make it known. At this time, we're going to the public comment.
Our first public comment is Kimberly Chamberlain.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kimberly Chamberlain, IFPTE Local 21, SSA Chapter President. I'm also a district employee of over 30 years. And I would like to say thank you very much for the support from everybody on the admin teams, cabinet, and the board. So far this year, we are kicking off very well. We've had some great trainings going on. I will say that it is much appreciated to give the time and effort to focus on our personnel and getting the proper training so that they can support our students. I have conducted a couple of different trainings for the classified personnel, attendance registrars, office managers, and they are so enthusiastic to start this year in person. And on a positive note, it is refreshing. I would also like to say congratulations for your decisions this evening. I am very happy to finally get somebody in there and start moving forward in that positive in-person direction. I do think your decisions tonight are very wise. And congratulations, Dr. Hurst. I think that is a well-deserved effort. Thank you very much. Everybody, have a great month. We've made it for the first 2 weeks of school almost. And I think everybody is really kicking off in a positive note. Just to say, I think attendance is doing pretty well. You guys, I'm seeing kids there and I'm seeing everybody doing a great job. So thank you very much. Keep coming out and supporting us. Have a good day.
Our next public comment is Christina Huerta. Please unmute yourself. Hello? Our next public comment is Jeffrey Bean Jr. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Hello, I am Jeffrey Bean. I teach 5th grade at Shannon Elementary. I have a couple of comments tonight. Some of them are suggestions for improvement. Some of them are good things. First of all, I think that I'd like to suggest that when meetings are held, they are held on time. I don't think it's fair to the public to make them wait an hour when closed session business could be conducted after the general session. Second, I'm a union rep for my school, and I had an incident I wanted to mention. A teacher at my school was underpaid last school year. This is a long-serving UTR member and district teacher. This teacher was underpaid, and it took several months to get that resolved. And I, as a fairly new teacher myself, I'm in my 9th year in the district. These types of things don't give me a lot of faith in the district, and they, over time, they could add up and encourage me to go seek employment elsewhere. So I communicated with HR, and there were periods where I would send messages and not receive a response for too long. So on the positive side, I teach 5th grade, and we saw Dr. Hurst and Trustee Bellis Hoy and Trustee Smith Folds in my school on Friday. It was good to have them in my class. They answered questions from my students, or Dr. Hurst answered questions from my students. You're welcome to visit anytime. Also, we've had a great start to our year. I was disappointed when my previous principal, Dan McDonald, retired. He was a great asset to the community, but our new principal is also great, and I look forward to a great school year. Have a good evening.
Our next public comment is Christy Lamb. Julian, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Our next public comment is Maisha Harris Gash. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. So first, I want to say to Miss Chamberlain, and I'm sure a couple of other people at my site, we thank you for helping us out. You are a great teacher. A lot of us know a lot of stuff in our level of expertise, but we don't know how to teach it. And I sat there like, wow, she's a great teacher. So I just wanted to share that about you, Miss Chamberlain. As we have begun this year, I love seeing my returning students. I love seeing my new students. I mainly have freshmen and sophomores, and it's just a great time to just see those eyes and just their expressions. And so I definitely love being back. So I want to share a little itty bitty story about one of my freshmen. And so he's used to being able to do what he wants to do at his previous school. So lo and behold, they put him on my caseload. So I happened to meet Mama, who was like, why, he's being marked absent. I said, well, let me tell you what he told me about why he had to leave early, why he came late. She was like, that is not the truth. I was like, oh, okay. So when I saw him the next day, I said, guess what? I met your mom. I said, and guess what your mama told me? And so I told him, I said, you know what? You don't tell the truth. So guess what? You're going to see me real soon. I'll pop up in one of your classes. And his eyes got all big like, what? I said, yeah, I got your whole schedule. He was like, you do? I said, yes. So you never know where you're going to find me. So I went to his class. He was surprised to see me. And he was sitting there doing nothing. So I helped him get going to get organized for this class. A young lady at his table also helped him. So he had all the materials that he needed. And when he sat down, his expression changed, his body language changed. And so before I left, I gave him 2 thumbs up because he had a really good day in that moment. So that's what I love about being an educator. So, hey, everybody have a great night. It was good seeing district leadership last week at our campus. And until next time.
Our next public comment is Robert Mandel. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Our next public speaker is Gene Kinster. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, board. I wanted to say that we had a good start to the year, which was amazing. And I wanted to encourage you with negotiations tomorrow to please consider giving the teachers a raise. I personally spend 20% of my take-home pay in gas just to come teach at my school. And that doesn't include any of the couple $1,000s I spend in my classroom everywhere. So hopefully you guys will consider that. That would be amazing. And I look forward to seeing Dr. Hurst because he was sick last time coming to our campus, and any of the other trustees. I've seen President Christensen, and I've seen Ms. Reckler, and it would be great to see more of the trustees at our school. Thank you so much.
Our next public comment is Jose de Leon. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, board, Dr. Hurst. I'd like to take this time to congratulate all the sites in starting a good school year. The principals, vice principals, assistant principals have worked very hard with their staff to create a welcoming school for our students and our families. It is a little bit rocky. There is some staff still missing. And we have high hopes with the new associate superintendent and director to start working on making sure that all our students have teachers in the classrooms. Additionally, we also are working very hard to get our students back from either charter schools or that are coming to our community. So once again, I'd like to thank all the site administrators, all the teachers, and all the staff at the sites for making the beginning of the school year an excellent time. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Kristen Persley. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Superintendent Hurst and Board. My name is Kristen Persley. I'm the Vice President of the Adult School Teachers Union. The adult school is preparing to open for the new school year on September 6th. Unfortunately, it is opening without a fair deal for teachers. The CalWorks program, which serves West County residents who need to find jobs, has been canceled with no timely notice to the union, resulting in 4 teachers losing their jobs. It isn't clear why this program was canceled. It can't have been the money, as CalWorks paid for it. Now, West County is without this resource, and how will this gap be filled? There are things in the ESL schedule that make no sense. We are told by the district that adult school money is tight. When money is tight, the best practice is to put your resources where they will do the most good. Yet 2 classes at the Sarah campus that had practically no attendance last year were given an additional day of class, while the union's attempts to save the 2 afternoon classes with much better attendance fell on deaf ears, and 2 teachers lost 6 hours of work each. Meanwhile, parents at Nystrom have been requesting a class there for a year. The adult school administration turned its back on 24 parents, yet is keeping these small classes at Sarah. Adult school teachers don't know what to expect anymore. It used to be that we tried to keep our attendance at a certain level to keep the class open. Now attendance doesn't seem to matter. It seems to be about where you teach. We are still bargaining our first contract after 4 years. By June of 2021, we had agreements with the district on all but 4 of our 35 articles. For the whole of 21-22, there have been no agreements. Instead, the district, so we need our contract. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Cristina Huerta. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't unmute last time. My name is Cristina Huerta and I'm a teacher at Kennedy High School. I have been at Kennedy for 10 years and this is the worst start of the year that I have seen. I am here tonight because we need support from the district now. We did have some district staff help us out last week, but our vacancies have not been filled and it's really affecting our students. We still need 8 teachers, 8, according to EdJoin. I checked right before this meeting. This is a lot when you think about the fact that we only have a teaching staff of about 45 teachers. We also need a counselor, an assistant principal, an attendance clerk, 1 CSS, and there might be a lot more vacancies that I'm not even aware of. We have newcomers enrolling at our school and we don't even have an ELD1 teacher to support them. It is so disheartening to face our students every day and have no answers for them. The district needs to provide us with additional staff, especially Spanish-speaking staff who can provide support for our newcomers. I spoke with a student this week and asked about her sister who was scheduled to return to Kennedy and complete her senior year. And she told me that her sister came on August 16th, but she was not enrolled in any classes. She wasn't able to communicate with anybody because nobody spoke Spanish. So she understood that she was supposed to go home. Her mom got upset, rightfully so. Days later, her mom got a call saying, oh, we fixed it. Your daughter can come back to school. But her mom decided that her daughter was not going to return to Kennedy. This is unacceptable. We need the district to step in now, provide additional staff to support Kennedy. We need to make sure all of our students feel welcomed and they are successful on our campus. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Delon Harrison. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, board. Thank you guys for with the new school opening. It's been rough. I'm concerned about our Black kids, the state of our Black children, and the fact that a lot of principals and scouts are not knowing how to engage Black families. That's a big concern with our Black children reading so low in our district, and not Black parents not knowing how to support their children and making sure that they're reading at grade level, or even having the things that the district is offering to support our children to read at grade level. It's very important that you guys focus on parent engagement, Black parent engagement, because just because we speak English and we've been in this country for a long time does not mean we understand how the educational system works and have access to all the resources that this district can provide for us. Your APACs are very important, and encouraging and assuring your principals start those, and board trustees making sure that there are APACs started in your areas is all of you guys' responsibility. The superintendent needs to make sure that these principals are supported so that they can start APACs at their sites. Black parents need to know what is the district going to do for our kids to ensure that our kids are learning. We do not need to go through another year with you guys try. We want our kids to read and read at grade level and have access to all the resources, funding, everything that you guys have to make sure our children are reading. Teachers need to understand how to deal with Black children so they can educate them, if not get the right teachers in the classroom that can support all kids, including the Black children. Thank you for listening, and that's all.
And our last public comment for the night is Robert Mandel. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening. I'm an ESL teacher in the adult ed program. I simply want to agree with what Kristen Pursley said. We have tried very, very hard to present a program.
Got my essay written. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly.
Excuse me. To present a program that would actually meet a whole spectrum of student needs and every aspect of the community. And fundamentally, our recommendations have been disregarded, even though our lead teachers. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Even though our lead teachers have between them decades of experience. So I truly hope the board will pay closer attention. You did pay attention on the issue of older adults, but the CalWorks program, the ESL program, the question of how to develop AB, and GED more fully, teacher input is simply not being considered. Thank you.
All right, and I just want to thank everyone who gave public comment this evening. Your public comment means a lot. Appreciate everyone that's out there. As we move on with the agenda, we're going to agenda review and adoption. Are there any changes to the agenda for this evening?
President Christian, Dr. Hurst informed us that we are pulling items F1 and F2 from this agenda.
Okay, F1 and F2. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Phillips, I saw your hand go up. Did you have anything? All right. Okay, is there anyone else?
President Christian,
Trustee Smith Fall?
can we get just a brief reason why we're pulling F1 and F2? Is it a time constraint? What's the reason? Time constraint?
Time constraint.
Thank you for the explanation.
Uh-huh. All righty. And a motion to adopt the agenda.
President Christian, I move that we adopt the agenda as is with F1 and F2 removed.
All right. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Reckler will second.
It's been second by Reckler, Trustee Reckler, and now to the vote. And we'll start off with our student trustees. Trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yay.
All right. Trustee, help me pronounce your name right, correct? Sapanya, is that correct? Let me know.
Trustee Simpania?
Sapanya, okay. All right, and now we'll go. She said yes. Yes. Okay, and now we'll go to Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, Gonzalez. So yes.
All right, and then we go to Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
All right, thank you. Trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right, and Trustee Phillips.
Okay.
All right, and I am a yes. All right, so the agenda is adopted, and then we go back and for the approval of minutes of July. We'll do it all together. July 13, July 18, August 3rd, August 10th, and August 17th. And the approval of those minutes. So I need a motion to approve those minutes. Trustee Reckler.
I'm happy to move the minutes with a small correction to the July 13th minutes. On page 3, the word superintendent has a typo in it.
Okay. All right.
President Christian, I have a point of order.
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to make sure when we're approving the agendas, making motions about the minutes, that we recognize that in the last minutes, we said that the items that we were going to pull would come back to this agenda. Not all of those items came back. Item E5, the release of the certificated employees action item about adult ed never came back to this agenda. Also, the FPM, the federal program monitoring, never came back. So I just want to make sure that we are staying above board when we make these motions and that they do come back when we say they're going to come back. That's all.
Okay. All right, we go back to the minutes and what I need to do. Oh, okay. We're gonna vote on the minutes. Is there a motion?
Yeah,
Trustee Reckler made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been second. And now to the vote. We start with our student trustees. Trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yay.
All right. Trustee Sapanya.
Trustee Simpania.
All right. And Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez. So yes.
All right. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
All right. Trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right. And Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And I am a yes. All right, the minutes are adopted. And now we move on to the C, the consent items. Is there a motion to adopt the consent items?
President Christian, I move that we approve the consent items.
Okay. And trustee Phillips?
I would like to pull item C9 for discussion.
C9, okay. Anything else? Is there a second to adopt the consent calendar? With item 9 pulled.
Reckler will second.
All right, it's been second. Now to the vote. Student trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
all right. Student trustee Sapanya,
Timpania, yes.
all right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, yes.
all right, thank you. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
all right. Trustee Smith-Fall,
Smith Folds abstains.
okay. Trustee Phillips,
Yay.
all right. And myself, so yes. All right, we go to superintendent report.
Thank you, sir. Going to ask if the presentation can be brought forward, please.
President Christian, I have a point of order before we start.
All right, what's the point of order?
The superintendent's report, when it used to be on the agenda, the slides used to be there. Can you tell me why the change has happened and if we're going to go back to putting the slides on the agenda?
Oh, I have,
We will make sure that they are on the agenda in the future. Trustee Smith Folds.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to start off by just sharing that this year we have kicked off by visiting a number of schools. Personally, I've been to 16 schools with a number of the board trustees sitting here this evening. There was one school in particular that I wanted to just pull this video out that they were sharing with their students, who was a teacher from Valley View Elementary School. And one of the things I want you to pay attention to in the video is the concept around deficit mindset thinking or growth mindset thinking. And what the teacher was sharing with the students is a portion of this film, and then really talking about growth mindset versus deficit mindset. So it's a 3-minute video clip. I just ask that we just tune into this video, please.
This is so challenging. I really don't think I can even do this.
This is really hard, but I believe I can finish it. I'm gonna keep trying different things.
So exciting, brain growth happening right here. Shh, they're trying to work on a problem. Oh, you're right, it's so exciting.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Watching your super awesome brain grow right here, right now.
Really?
Yeah, you believe in yourself and you're working on a really challenging problem.
What about me?
Well, you're also working on a challenging problem, but for some reason you don't believe in yourself. And that means that your brain won't grow as much. What? You totally have the potential in yourself. As long as you start believing in yourself, your brain will grow a lot more.
Wow, I can do this. I really believe in myself now.
Thinking back in middle school, I got this message that was reinforced that I was good at things like reading and writing. Not necessarily directly told that I was good at things like math, and so never, believed in my math abilities, and as a consequence would be left behind. So Joe, I was doing some reflection about my own experience in high school. I was wondering if you can tell me about the research about the intersection between how the brain works and the correlations with how well you do in math.
Yeah, it's really amazing actually. It turns out what you believe in yourself actually changes how your brain works. Some students have what's known as a growth mindset. Kids with a growth mindset believe they can learn anything. But some people have a fixed mindset and they think their intelligence is more or less fixed. So this graph shows you sets of students going through 7th and 8th grade, and it shows you their achievement. And the only difference between the two sets of students is their mindset. And you can see that the students with a fixed mindset, their achievement stays kind of level. But the kids with a growth mindset, their achievement's always going onwards and upwards. It kind of all takes off. I mean, it seems that if you believe in yourself, it actually changes how your brain operates and changes what you learn. It's just so important to believe in yourself.
My mom, who I lived with, didn't really know math well enough to be able to help me with my homework. We also couldn't afford a tutor. My mom was able to locate some relatively cheap summer options for me to continue practicing math. As 10, 11, 12-year-old, I was just like, oh God, like that's my summer, I don't want to do this. But I think those additional experiences helped me think about math differently. Once I started believing in myself and seeing my progress, that I could actually keep up with what they were teaching as a 21-year-old at Stanford. And I'm just realizing that really helped get me where I am today.
Next slide, please. So again, I wanted to, commend the teacher, and the teacher was Miss Elac at Valley View. And I want to commend her and call her name out because she was starting the year off by sharing with her students about belief and about effort and about growth mindset. And as you look at this chart on this page, it talks about the difference between fixed mindset versus growth mindset, about desires. And you see in the one column for growth mindset, you have students that want to learn new things. They're eager to take risk. When it comes to skills, you see it's, they're asking questions such as, is this really my best work? Or what else can I do to improve? When it comes to effort, under a growth mindset, you hear students talking about, I know this will help me even though it is difficult. When it comes to setbacks in the classroom, growth mindset is thinking of another strategy and then learning from the mistakes as well. And then when receiving feedback, when it comes to feedback for growth mindset, students recognize their weaknesses, but also recognizes how they can move forward in fixing and addressing the areas of improvement. And then when it relates to other peers, instead of them thinking on the fixed mindset where it says it's easy for him or her, they were born smart, they're really questioning how they did it, and they're wondering how they can do it or how they can figure it out. So again, just want to call out Ms. Elac by name for starting off this school year by sharing with her students about growth mindset. And if we can go to the next slide, even though they were talking about mathematics in the video, it really goes for anything, any subject area. And we wanted to just share, here are some positive messages or messages that promote a growth mindset. So I just want to go over this with our board and those who are listening. Messages such as you can do it or you can't do it yet. So putting in that yet in there, or you don't know it yet. You learn from your mistakes. Never give up. I love how hard you're working. I can tell you tried your best on this. I love how you didn't give up even when it was difficult. And then at the very bottom, it talks about messages that we can give to our students as well, such as you can do this. I believe in you. I won't give up on you. So once again, I wanted to just share this observation from my visits with the board. And again, thank you, Ms. Elac. Next slide. So we also have our new interim Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Sylvia Greenwood. And we've asked if she could just provide us an update on staffing and what's going on in that area.
Good evening, board. Can you hear me? So as listed on the slides, we have some high priority schools, and these schools for elementary and secondary are high priority because either the principal has been in the classroom teaching, covering classroom work, also APs or VPs, and also because of the high number of vacancies. Next slide. So our current vacancies, before I did this slide, currently elementary now is 39, secondary is 27, and SPED is still currently at 27. We're using central office staff to support vacancies. We have been having daily staffing meetings to review data. We are processing substitutes and processing credentials as fast as we possibly and humanly can. And we're also contacting retirees to turn back to work. Next slide. On the classified side, we're filling vacancies, we're screening, interviewing, and testing candidates as fast as humanly possible. During the month of August, this is the time where, according to Teamsters contract, that we are transferring paraprofessionals around and open positions. And so we don't have the exact numbers because of the movement at this time. New hires, we are fingerprinting, and like I said, we continue to test, and we're posting for substitutes in various areas on EdJoin, Indeed, wherever we can post to get substitutes. Next slide. Okay.
And we also asked Mr. Booker to provide a summary of our visitors policy. We've been getting a lot of questions on the visitor policy, so we wanted to make sure that that was addressed as well. So we're going to turn it over to Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Dr. Hirsch. Good evening, school board members. I'm going to briefly go over or summarize the visitors policy that we have. But when we look at our visitor policy or any policy, we are mindful that we are staying in line with whether it's a board approved policy or the ed code. So I'm going to read this to you. Visitors, including parents and guardians, do not have unrestricted access to a secured area of school buildings. The district requires visitors, including parents, board members, district employees, media representatives, and others, to register upon entering a school premise or premises. This is information that not only comes from the ed code, but it also comes from our school board approved policy. All visitors, including district retired personnel, are required to check in at the main office, state the purpose for the visit, and be granted approval by the administrator or office staff before they enter into the secured areas of the building. Next slide, please. For elementary schools, parents and guardians may walk their child or children onto campus, but not into the classroom prior to the start of school. Once school instruction starts, for example, while school is in session, the parent or guardian must exit the campus immediately. School in session is determined by the school board or school bell schedule. First bell starts instruction and the last bell of the day ends school instruction. At all middle and high schools, parents are not allowed to walk students to class. Students are encouraged to be independent. A parent or guardian who wishes to meet with a teacher may ask the school office to help make an appointment. Although we want our campuses to be inviting, we also want to make sure that our safety measures are strong and in place. And so this is part of our safety plan for the district. And I am complete with my presentation.
And that concludes our superintendent report, staffing update, and also the visitors policy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hurst. And now we'll proceed on with the agenda for this evening. We go to E, action items. And
President Christian,
yes, go ahead.
are we not asking questions on the superintendent's report tonight?
Oh, that's right. That's right, we're asking questions. Yeah. So, Clerk Gonzalez-Hort.
Thank you, President Christian. My question was, and this might be for Dr. Greenwood or for Dr. Hurst. How are we staffing the high priority schools with central office staff? What I'm trying to get to is, are we staffing it, looking at the number of vacancies, and then if a school has more than others, do they get more people, or are we just sending people like 2 per school? Could you talk about that for a second?
When we looked at the vacancies before school started, we determined, like I said, by the high priority schools. And so in conjunction with the executive cabinet and determining which people would go to what site based on that high level of need.
Thank you. And out of the high priority schools, which elementary and which secondary have the highest number of openings?
Give me one moment, I have the chart. Right now, Kennedy has a high number. Hercules high, Hercules middle for secondary. Perry's has a high number.
Thank you, Dr. Greenwood.
Okay.
And President Christian, that was my last question.
Oh, okay. And Trustee Reckler?
If I may just expand on that. So in those schools that are high priority, that have the high number of vacancies, can you explain how those vacancies are being filled? Are you taking central office staff and assigning them for a long period of time? Or is it one sub after another? Or can you give us a little more detail into that piece, please?
It is a combination of all of that. We're doing subs, even though we have a kind of a healthy sub pool over 100. Subs are not picking up long-term jobs. They're determining that they want to do day-to-day assignments. So, and it's also a combination of using central office staff to help support those staffs, because central office is spread out amongst all of those high priority schools. And also the processing of new subs that are coming in as well and getting those into the classroom.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Smith Falls.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. Dr. Hurst, exactly how many central office staff have been deployed out to the schools in these last 2 weeks?
Hold on, let me look at our list. And if you have that handy, Dr. Greenwood, let me know. We actually have a matrix and a list of central office staff. Hold on one second. And if you want to go to your next question, I'm pulling up that list now.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question is, when we're, Mr. Booker, when we're talking about the visitor the visitor policy, this visitor and volunteer levels was sent out. I cannot remember where I got it from, Mr. Booker. I think it was in the parent handbook. When we talk about the visitor policy, can we, sorry, on the visitor policy, parents, guardians, visitors, community members, they have to be vaccinated or test. Is that accurate?
For volunteers, yes, they either have to be vaccinated or have a negative test within the 72-hour period.
Perfect. And then can we share the dates of the fingerprinting party? So we have free fingerprinting parties that happen in the district, has them at different sites. And when parents can come and they have to fill out be a mentor. And then once they fill out be a mentor, they can come for their free fingerprinting, and that gives them a badge. And then that badge allows them to volunteer in the classroom, volunteer on field trips, to volunteer for yard duty, cafeteria duty, to help in the classroom. Can we share that? It probably is on the district website, but if we can share that in the next superintendent report and the following reports, I think that would be great. And if we share it in multiple languages, I think that would be awesome. Also, finally, I would like to, and Dr. Hurst, this wasn't on your superintendent report, but it was and it wasn't. We always talk about communication on your superintendent report. So I would like an update on Parent Square, what we're hearing from our parents and our community about its accessibility, if it's working out. I know there's a little bit of a hiccup that we're working out now to make sure that everybody's not contacted on your emergency list, that, you know, your great Aunt Susie doesn't get the information about if Billy did his homework or not, that it's very clear and succinct. So I just wanted to bring that forward. And Dr. Hurst, if you have that number, I'm complete.
Yes, so at the elementary level, we have 41 staff members from central office from all departments deployed. And at the secondary and alternative school sites, we have another 22. So a total of 63 total central office personnel deployed.
Thank you
And
for
just
that
keep in
number.
mind, that's not just the classroom, that's also in support positions as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And I do want to make sure that our student trustees know that they can ask questions also. This is the
I
superintendent.
did inform them as well.
Thank you so much. President Christian, I'm complete with my questions.
All right, thank you. Trustee Phillips.
Dr. Hurst, you mentioned growth mindset earlier. Are you a believer in growth mindset?
Absolutely. I'm certainly a believer in growth mindset. I would say that is certainly my character and my belief system. Absolutely.
And why are you such a strong believer in growth mindset?
I think one of the things that you saw in the video, one is when you have a growth mindset, it certainly leads to not just how we feel about ourselves, but how we approach different things as well. So you heard Joe Bowler, who is at Stanford, a professor at Stanford. She really talked about the connection of growth mindset to increase student learning and increase student achievement. So the messages that we send to our teachers and the messages we send to one another are very important. So that's why I wanted to call that teacher out by name, because she was being very intentional and deliberate about, hey, you can do well in this class if you put forth the effort and if you believe in yourself. So that's why I wanted to call her out by name as well.
It's very interesting that you said something about the teacher. Do you believe that growth mindset also works on adults?
100%. Growth mindset applies to everybody. It can, absolutely.
Do you think that it would be beneficial to staff, and right now, particularly the cabinet, the folks who work in closer proximity to the board? Do you think it will be beneficial if the board practiced growth mindset with them?
Absolutely, sir. 100%.
Are there resources that you could share with the board to help us move in that direction?
Yes, there's one book, and I'm sure we probably have seen the book by Carol Dweck, and it talks specifically about growth mindset. So that's a resource. Typically, we would give to administrators and teachers as well. I'm sure a lot of our administrators have read that book and can be available for the board as well.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Yes,
Hurst.
sir.
All right. Any other questions? Student trustees?
Building off of what Trustee Phillips said, I understand that growth mindset has been like an idea that has been pushed into our school since my freshman year. And I wanted to know if there were any like actual evidence based on students in our district to see whether or not growth mindset is actually helpful and beneficial to our students. Because if you look at it, Carol Dweck's studies have not been able to be replicated. So I just want to know if this thing that we've been recurringly hearing, is it's actually being implemented correctly or if it actually has any effect on us.
So if you're asking, has it been implemented correctly here?
Like in the district.
So I can't say that we have gathered any evidence, Trustee Miles, to support whether or not growth mindset has been implemented correctly, but I do believe, I mean, that growth mindset is real, that effort, putting forth effort is real. I just don't think that it's something that we've delved into in this district. And I wanted to call it out because I have a strong belief about fixed mindset versus growth mindset for our teachers and students.
Do you think it would be beneficial to actually test the effects of growth mindset, possibly with surveys, asking students after each quarter?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I mentioned it also, just to plant a seed in everyone's mind about messages that we send to our students. And I think also doing a survey and really starting with the conversation about growth mindset, first of all. I'm not sure if everyone, even though I shared the resource about Carol Dweck, I'm not sure if everyone has actually read the book or read enough about growth mindset, but it's certainly a conversation or a bigger conversation that needs to happen within our district.
Are there any other questions?
President Christian, I don't have a question, but I would like to make a comment.
All right. I guess we go to comments now.
I just want to say that what our student trustee just mentioned, I think is very spot on. I think that Dr. Hurst, what we can do is have intentionality behind it and make sure that it is working for our students in our district, and doing that by talking directly to them, doing that by making sure that when we send out the surveys and the data, that we look at it and make sure that it's being it's useful data. And then we are able to course correct or able to implement those things that are best suited for our students in WCCUSD. So thank you for that. Also would just like to take a moment to say welcome to the board. I appreciate you guys being here.
All
That's
right.
it.
Trustee Phillips.
I'll save my comments until the comment period. Thank you.
Thank you, President Christian. I just want to thank our student trustees for being here and for those great questions about growth mindset. Superintendent Hurst, we were investing a lot in growth mindset maybe 7 years ago in this district. So we have not really invested in that for a while. But for it to truly work, we need to have sites invested in the idea, right? You know this better than I do. Part of what I saw was if it comes from the top down and there's no investment at the site or understanding, right, it doesn't really happen, right? So I would love to truly see an investment, but really see an organic push from the sites, especially from our site leaders, understanding if this is one of their main pushes. But I would love to see it. I'm a big believer in growth mindset. But of course, done correctly and done well, especially at the sites that has been invested in the past. And I do have obviously big concerns with our vacancies. I want to thank our HR department, especially because they have done really strong, and our site leaders, because they have done a lot of work in the last month and a half so that we wouldn't have 200, 300 openings or vacancies, but 40 vacancies. So I want to say thank you to your team for that. And I think that if there are currently 40 vacancies, but we're deploying 41 central staff, and there's still issues that we're hearing, it doesn't really add up. So I would like just more information on that, because that didn't really make sense to me. Thank you.
And just to clarify, so the list that I am sharing with you, our staff will go out for a portion of the time. But there are certain staff, we have another list where staff are out there for the full day and subbing for the full day. But then the list that I was sharing, they're out for a certain amount of time and then they come back because they still have their work to do as well.
Got it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right. Are there any other comments? All right. Now,
Dr. Hurst, may I have both of those lists? Sorry, President Christian, you asked for other comments. My comment is, Dr. Hurst, may I have, it's not a comment, it's a question. May I have both of those lists so we can see the numbers for both of them?
Absolutely.
Thank you so very much.
all right. Now we're moving on to E, action items. And E1, single plan for student achievement.
So we're going to have our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Martin, present on that.
Good evening, board, family and community. I'll wait for it to pop up. Dr. Hurst, you know if Rosa or Genesis is going to project? Thank you.
Yes, they're bringing it up.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hurst. Dr. Hurst, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
While we're waiting for that to be pulled up, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Perry's has a great growth mindset. They under Dr. Scott, Dr. Janet Scott was a guru in that. So we don't have to pay for consultants. We have the master growth mindset person in the district that we can talk to about that. So I just want us to be mindful that it doesn't mean go get a consultant. It means look at the schools that are already doing it well. And those people who are high valued employees doing it well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, team. Okay, so I'm going to review our single plan for student achievement. I brought this to the board before. Our school plan for student achievement is a document that represents a school cycle of continuous improvement for student achievement. The annual process of developing, reviewing, and updating the SPSA includes a comprehensive review of data and the development of actions necessary to achieve school goals. In essence, the SPSA is the school's blueprint to improve the academic performance of all students. Next slide, please. Moving up. What do schools need? Why do schools need an SPSA? You need an SPSA as part of Ed Code, section 64001, or the district determines that the school must complete an SPSA, or the school has been identified as a CSI school, comprehensive support and improvement school. Best practice is to do a cycle of continuous improvement where you analyze data, identify strengths, areas of growth, plan and implement action services, and then further analyze data and so on. Next slide, please. For 22-23 SPSAs and West Contra Costa Unified Schools District vision and goals, the SPSAs were guided around looking at some of our focus areas in each department. Also, our 3-year local accountability plan, our LCAP, which has metrics and actions in there. We also connected those to goals and actions, services, expenditures to the LCAP. And then grade level and department level groups specifically design plans to implement their actions and services based on the LCAP goals and needs within their SPSA. Next slide, please. For achieving students, there's 3 goals that are still in the LCAP, our current LCAP, which are achieving students, thriving employees, and caring schools. Under achieving students, we have ELA, math, English language development, graduation rate, college and career readiness. For staff, we have engagement, voice, staff retention, opportunities, professional learning and growth, caring schools, student perception and behavior and engagement, in school as welcoming, caring place of learning, and parent engagement. Next slide, please. These are some of the best practices for the sequence of a SPSA in the work. Again, this is really to review the data to determine what worked well for students and what did not work well. Identify needs for the upcoming year. Identify the metric to measure success. Develop goals to address needs. Design action steps to meet goals during upcoming year, and fund the actions and services to meet the goals. Next slide, please. SPSA begins with information about the school community, the purpose and description, the school-wide components about the school. Next slide, please. The next part of the SPSA includes actions and services. And this is an overview of that page around actions and services. So again, you'll see what is the action the school is putting in place, the timeline, the student subgroup, who's responsible, and the proposed expenditures. Next slide, please. And then we have the role of school site council, SSC. The SSC shall collaborate on the content and development of the SPSA. The SPSA shall be reviewed annually and updated, including proposed expenditure of funds allocated to the school through the CONAP and the local control and accountability plan, if any, by the SSC. The SPSAs will be reviewed and approved by the governing board at a regularly scheduled meeting whenever there are material changes. In this case, I'm bringing forward all the 22-23 SPSAs. Next slide, please. The role of Elac. Each California public school grades kindergarten through 12 with 21 or more English learners must form an Elac, English Learner Advisory Committee. The responsibilities are around advising the principal and staff in the development of the site plan for English learners and submitting the plan to the school site council for consideration of inclusion in the school plan for student achievement, assisting in the development of school-wide needs assessment, identifying ways to make parents aware of the importance of regular school attendance, and each ELAC shall have the opportunity to elect at least one member of the multilingual district English Learner Advisory Committee, MDAC. Next slide, please. And the role of our African American Parent Advisory Council, which is APAC, is to meet with the site administrator and review the African American student frame in the SPSA, advise the principal in the development of a site plan to support African American Black students in the submission of the plan, review data and trends pertaining to the achievement of African American students, ensure that there are resources dedicated to African American students, and review the data, support with planning a family night with the APAC and the family-friendly walkthrough at the school site, assisting in the development of the school-wide needs assessment, and elect a delegate to the district's advisory, African American site advisory team. Next slide, please. Thank you. And at this time, the schools that are before you for submission of their SPSA and approval, we have Chavez, Ford, Grant, Harding, Kensington, Lake, Nystrom, Ohlone, Olinda, Riverside, Shannon. For K-8, we have Perry's and Stewart. And for middle school, we have Betty Reed Soskins. And for high school, we have De Anza, Hercules High, and Kennedy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now we have questions. There'll be 2 minutes in comments or questions. No more than 3 questions, and then we go into 2 minutes for comments. So, questions. Trustee Reckler.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. At this point, you probably know that I'm going to go right to resource inequities and ask about that. So in Harding's SPSA, they raise an issue which has been talked about for years. And so I wanted to bring it to your attention and ask, have you noted it, and what kind of actions do you think the district can do about it? And that is that Harding has 37% socioeconomically disadvantaged students and has no additional staff or resources like full-service community schools, such as healthcare, counseling, tutoring, childcare, supper, et cetera, for student families in need. And I think this is really important. And I'm so glad that their site council wrote this down and put it in. But they have 37%, and they received $28,414 in their LCFF. They're not the only school like that. I have a list of a bunch of schools that are kind of in that, category of high need. And so I was wondering if any thought had been given to it, or could this be agendized for action in some way? Action plan.
All right, thank you.
It is a question, so if there
That's a question.
could be an acknowledgement from staff, that'd be great. If not,
I was, sorry, Trustee Reckler, I was actually looking over at some additional dollars to see if Harding actually had concentration dollars. They do not, but I have been in conversation with Dr. McIntyre around some additional LCAP dollars. There was originally a plan to provide and give more coaching staff to schools so that they have some of these additional resources, even if they're a school that does not actually normally get Title I dollars, concentration supplemental dollars, that we would actually be doing something more for those school sites. And so we're actually working on a plan, and there is an opportunity to still give coaching to schools. However, one of the concerns around adding coaching currently right now is just, or additional staff that's certificated at school sites, is the staffing crisis. So that's been somewhat of the holdup, but there's definitely a thought and a plan. And I definitely think there needs to be more conversation about it, but Dr. McIntyre and I will problem solve on this and get back to you, because I know this is something that you've brought up before, and I know this is a concern from the principals as well.
thank you. I'm gonna give him my list.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Student trustee.
Thank you. So I was looking at slide 5, and one of the goals being for student welcoming, and then you wanted parent engagement. And then I looked at slide 6 and I said, best practices for sequence SPSA work and review data for worked well with students and what didn't work. And I wanted to know if parents, in order to Well, in order for parents to engage and encourage student welcoming, will the data be shared with parents or resources or documents in order to encourage students to have a welcoming time at school?
So we currently are in the process now, and if Ms. Logan wants to speak more to it, but we've actually been working on a data cadence where we're going to actually be bringing it back to the board to actually talk through some of the chicks data. LaShante Smith has put in place a SABRE screener where students will have the ability to take the screener a couple times a year, where you'll actually be able to talk about how you feel on campus. Do you feel safe? Do you feel welcome? And we plan to bring that data back to the board. And we do have some chicks data that we do need to share with the board as well, to give baseline data on how students are feeling. And so chicks is only given twice a year at the beginning, at the end of the once a year, at the end of each year, but the SABRES data, we plan on giving to students throughout the year and bringing that data back to the board and to the community so that you're able to see what students are actually saying about their experiences at school. So yes, that will be happening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Trustee Smith-Fall.
Thank you. President Christian, this first one I would like not to count as my question. Is just to make sure that the community understands. Ms. Martin, can you tell us chicks and SABRE? Can you break down the acronyms?
Trustee Smith-Fall.
It can count as a question, President Christian. It'll count as a question. Can you please break down for the community chicks and SABRE, Ms. Martin?
Sorry, I know we got emails back about our acronym. So California Healthy Kids Survey is chicks.
Thank you.
And SABRES, I need to tell you exactly what the acronym means in just a second. LaShante's texting me.
Okay.
Social academic behavior.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then the second question is, SSCs usually have a timeline, right? So what is the current SSC timeline, and has that been shared with principals? For example, when should schools hold their first SSC meeting of the year?
We actually just reviewed this today. We are going to be sharing at our first operations meeting, which is in October. September. So it'll be our first meeting in September, and we'll be going over the calendar. Family and Community Engagement has done an elaborate calendar in partnership with IT and also state and federal. And so that will be communicated with principals at the first meeting in September for operations.
Thank you so much. My third question is APACs. How many schools currently lack an APAC? Do we have that information yet, or is that coming?
No, Ms. Reynolds, Shakira Reynolds has actually been working on that for me. She's also created a very elaborate spreadsheet with all of that information on it as well. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. Each presentation that we've submitted, I've tried to indicate either a plus, they have it, or they don't. I have to go back and get that for you. She can get that to you first thing tomorrow morning on the number of schools that do not have an APAC.
And just for clarity, APAC is African American Parent Advisory Council. President Christian, those are my three questions, but I do have comments.
All right, thank you. Trustee Phillips.
Dr. Hurst, the visioning and strategic planning that's going on right now and being culminated, how is that going to fold into these plans?
Well, I think you're going to see us revisit the SPSAs, but also I think you've heard even the Ed Services Department talk about the instructional focus plan. So what we have been sharing is that the strategic planning process is just that, it's a process. We have year 2 presentation, we still have to present to the board some things that's going to be happening. And hopefully by the end of year 2, we'll have our strategic plan in place. So what I've shared with Ed Services and our leaders is that there will be an opportunity for us to sit down and look at what's in the instructional focus plan, and also what's in the SPSAs, and making sure that it's all aligned to the strategic planning process. So to answer your question, there will be a sit down with our leaders to revisit the instructional focus plan and the SPSAs going into next year.
So just to clarify, when you say revisit, do you mean the normal annual revisit? Are you saying that there will be like a mid-year or three-quarter year check-in? What are you saying?
So I imagine that it's going to be an ongoing conversation. So it won't be an end of the year conversation. It'll have to be an ongoing conversation even now.
Okay.
And I'll just say this, I'm a little hesitant because we are still at the very beginning stages of the strategic planning process. So without us knowing the big picture of what that strategic plan is going to look like, I don't have any solid dates right now of when we're going to sit down and start having those conversations, because it is dependent upon what's going to be in that plan. But as I will say, as we move further along in that process, then that'll be the opportunity for leaders across the district to sit down immediately and start having those conversations.
Thank you. I've heard that there has been pushbacks at some of the sites about starting APACs. As you develop the list of who does not have APACs or an APAC, can you also be sure to find out why they do not have an APAC so that can be targeted?
Yes, sir, we can. And I know Ms. Martin is listening as well and taking note of that also.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? All right. Do we need a motion?
Student trustee has a question.
Student trustee?
Wrong button. This is for Ms. Martin. I was just wondering, where is the information about the APAC available? Because this is the first I've ever heard of it. I don't know if this is like public knowledge or if you just had to look on the website for it. Where is the APAC made available, and how do you join, and like just information relating to that?
I will research where there's information. There is an APAC guidebook, but it's typically given to families and community when they're at the meetings, at Ssc meetings. So there is a toolkit for APAC and how APAC is formed and all the rules and guidelines. However, I'm not exactly 100% sure if it's on the website. I believe it is on OASA's website, which is part of the district website. I can follow up and make sure that I ensure that you have access to it and know where that information is.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, we need a motion. Trust Clerk Gonzalez-Soy.
I move that we approve the SPSAs for the sites mentioned here.
All right.
Reckler will second.
It's been second.
President Christian, point of order, winner comments.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
After the motion is made.
So the motion's been made and it's seconded. So now our comments.
Yes, and the chair will call for comments.
Thank you, President Christian. I'll wait for you calling for comments.
All right. We go to comments. Two. Clerk Gonzalez-Soy.
I'm sorry, I was not raising my hand. I was
Are you
just-
timing?
I was putting up my timer. Yeah.
Oh,
Colleagues, President Christian is also putting a 2-minute timer for all of us. Just so you know in comments.
anyone has comments? Trustee Smith Fall.
Thank you. Can staff put that timer up so we can see it, just so we'll know? My comments include the following. Also want to make sure that we recognize that Grant had a really robust growth mindset program also. I would like to make sure that we have SSC training for parents, Dr. Hurst. It is vital that parents understand what SSC is, vital that they understand how they have voice and power in that SSC. SSC is one of the most powerful places that parents can put forth their needs, wants, concerns at a school site. There is no Spsa without a functioning SSC. We need to make sure that that is understood all across. We also need to make sure we have a robust Elac and a robust APAC. I would like for staff to remember that everyone cannot digest our educational alphabet soup. So when we're doing our presentations, just a glossary or a vocabulary that kind of spreads it all out will help us. I also want to make sure that if we need to have language that is digestible for our community when it comes to explanation about all the things that we offer and all the input that we want from them. We just heard from the student trustee that she had no idea that there was an APAC. That should never be the case in any of our sites, that someone doesn't have an idea, because student voice on APACs is welcome. Student voice in Elac is welcome. We want to hear from their experience. And if she doesn't know, I can imagine how many other parents don't know. And student trustees, please forgive me if I'm using the wrong pronoun. I don't see it on your screen. So if you would like prefer another pronoun, please let me know. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will not be voting for the SPSAs just because I want to abstain until we get them all up to par, meaning everybody has an APAC, everybody has an Elac, and we're all making sure we're on the same page and holding that level of accountability. Thank you, colleagues.
All right. Are there any other questions? Thank you. Comments? Any other comments? Trustee Miles.
Thank you. I will also be abstaining from the vote on the SPSAs until I have more information. I have read through a few of the SPSAs, and I do feel like they should be worked on a bit more. I know looking at the information, I have a lot of questions for the people who wrote them, as there are a lot of inconsistencies, or I have a misunderstanding of the acronyms. It is an alphabet soup, and there are a lot of numbers that are missing or just plain confusing that I would like clarification on, and I don't believe I can get that at this time, so I'd just like to make that known.
All right, any other comments? Trustee Phillips.
I know that there are 1,000,001 things that have to be done. And seemingly they all have to be done at the same time. But I would encourage the superintendent and his team, with everything else that they have to do, to work through the strategic planning process and the visioning process as quickly as we can in building out these profiles, not just for our district, but for the sites. Because every year, every time that we pass these plans, we're taking one more step down a road. And that road that we've been walking down has not been the most effective road. Not calling it a bad road, but I'm saying it has not been the most effective road for our students. And so the sooner we can start walking down that better road, the better off our students will be. And so these plans that we're approving right now, we're approving them knowing, as you said, that we have to come back. But I do think that it's come back to them and have a continuous ongoing conversation But I do think it's imperative that we, I know the strategic planning process and is never done. You'll always tweak things, but I do think it's imperative that we come to some definition so we can really begin to influence these plans and the other plans that we do, because that's where we're going to really begin to see the needle move much quicker for our students.
Are there any other comments? All right. We can go to the vote. Start off with our student trustees. Trustee Miles.
Miles abstain.
All right. Student trustees, Sapanya.
Singapania abstain.
All right. Clerk is a toy.
Gonzalez, yes.
All right. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
All right. Trustee Smith-Fall.
Smith-Folds abstains.
All right. Trustee Phillips
Yeah.
and myself, yes. Right. All right. It passes. So, and now we go on to two 45-day budget revision.
Turn it over to Dr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Dr. Hurst. It's a pleasure to be here with you again this evening. If I could please have permission to share my file. There we go.
You have it, sir.
Great, thank you. So tonight we're going to be talking about the 45-day revision. Just so you're aware, Javetta Cleveland, the district's fiscal advisor assigned by the county, is also present. Should you, the board members, have any questions regarding the 45-day revision beyond what I'm able to answer, or in addition to what I'm able to answer for you this evening. I did promise that I would be less than 10 minutes, so I just started my timer and I will keep that promise. So tonight we're actually doing the 45-day revision. And the reason we do a 45-day revision is very often when we're building our budget, we're building it based on information that we know as of the May revision, the information provided by the state of California to us. What happens is the state is late in adopting their own final version of the budget, the enacted budget. And when there are material changes, we need to come back to the board and tell you what those material changes are, because we're actually updating the adopted budget with those material changes in mind. Now, the material changes that we're talking about affect both the restricted and unrestricted side of the general fund budget. On the unrestricted side of the budget, we have a really positive impact resulting from the COLA. As you know, the statutory COLA for this year was 6.56%, but the state, meaning the legislature and the administration, augmented that COLA. They added an additional 6.28% to the funding provided under the local control funding formula, which, as you know, is the fundamental basis from which we fund the vast majority of our school-wide operations. And so what we saw was the funding in that category grew by 12.84%, which is massive. On the restricted side of the budget, the state has provided three expansions to our funding for very specific purposes. The first one is the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. And that is one-time funding that we have until June 30th of 2028 to spend, and it's roughly $38.8 million. We're still waiting for the allowable uses on what we can spend those dollars for. But one of the things we're going to be looking for is where there's synergies between what's currently in our fiscal solvency plan and this particular funding source. We're also going to be a recipient of the Arts, Media, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. That block grant is $15.7 million. It's also one-time money, and we have until June 30th of 2026 to spend those dollars. Those dollars are more just, they have a line item for allowable uses that says for discretionary uses for operations. And I'll be sharing out publicly what that means for us, what choices we can make with those dollars shortly because we just received guidance from the state of, it's not the official guidance, we received early guidance from the state of California on this particular grant fund. Finally, we have the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program funding. This is actually ongoing funding. We did receive this last year. What's really nice about this particular funding is the purpose of this funding is to help us provide before and after school programs in addition to the after school safety grant that we receive federally. This is state funds to expand our day. So we provide 9 hours of supervised learning opportunities for our students. So not just the basic day, but that before and after school program. This program was roughly $13 million last year, and this year it's at $18.5 million. So we're seeing nice funding growth to help expand those programs. Now, within the 45-day revision, we have opportunities and risks in our budget that remain. Some of the opportunities that are there is we have the ability to combine the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program with our after school education and safety program, so we can get some synergies by putting those two programs together and having a much larger program, so we get synergies of size. As I said on the previous slide, we're going to be looking to see where we can find ways to leverage some of the new funding sources legally. As we see the exhaustion of the ESSER 3 funds in the current year, we know we're spending down those federal funds in the current year. And as part of our current fiscal solvency plan, we know that we have cuts we need to make next year that were in the adopted budget. And so part of what we're going to be examining in the coming weeks as the allowable uses guidance comes out is where there's overlap in how we're spending some of those ESSER 3 dollars to some of these new grants to see if we can use that to write down or minimize the negative impact of the current fiscal solvency plan where possible. And of course, a detailed plan would be provided not only to the county, but to the board because it would be required. And it's just best practices. So on the risk side of the budget, we still have a fiscal solvency plan in place that needs to be that would require board action by March for the 23-24 year, which would be next fiscal year. And also we're in a position where our labor contracts with our labor partners expired June 30th of this year. And so as the budget's written, there are no increases to costs of labor as from negotiations currently in the budget. And so that would pose a risk to our financial position. That's not a value proposition. That's just a statement of fact. Also, we have to recognize that our labor partners and everybody in the district has experienced the impact of inflation over the last 12 months, which has been 9.1%. I mean, horrendous, probably the worst and certainly in our new board members' lifetimes, or new trustee lifetimes. And of course, as a district, we continue to experience declining enrollment. And we've spent a fair bit of time talking about that just maybe 7 or 8 weeks ago. When we look at the increased funding, the increased funding allowed us to make some fundamental changes to the assumption of our budget. Is that my time? Oh, fundamental changes to the budget that will really increase our resiliency. One of those changes is that we no longer need to transfer funds from Fund 17, which is the fund that the board designated as its reserve fund for economic calamity. And so the addition to those local control funding formula dollars has allowed us to say, while we previously thought we were going to use those funds, we don't have to anymore. We're also not planning to use the other post retirement benefit account as a source of solvency to bridge the shortcoming. And so I'll show you what the implications of those two choices mean for our fund balance in just a couple slides. But I wanted to point out these two changes improve our resiliency, the resiliency of our budget. Also, we're really looking forward to seeing the final language on the transportation reimbursement increase. The state has flat funded transportation since 2012 with no COLA. And so now the idea that we might actually be able to see a little more reimbursement for the program we are delivering is just great news, because the cost of transportation goes up very, very quickly, especially with fuel and labor costs rising. So looking at what it means for us on the financial side, you see on the middle column there, what we had at the adopted budget, we were expecting roughly $455.5 million in revenue in the total restricted and unrestricted general fund. Now with the increases, there where you see on that revenue limit line, that's technically the local control funding formula. That's the unrestricted side of the budget. We're seeing a $23.3 million increase. If you look just 2 lines below that, the other state, this is actually on the restricted side of the budget. So we're seeing those 3 grants contributing $72.9 million on the restricted side of the budget, meaning only for allowable uses under the grant. And so when we look at that, we see our revenue is increasing by $96.2 million to $551.7 million. On the expense side, there is no change to the unrestricted side of the budget, but we have to assume that we're going to, once we complete our plan for rolling out how we're going to spend those increased monies for the expanded learning opportunity grant and the learning loss grant, for example, we have to assume that we're going to spend some of those. Right now, we've got placeholders for the total dollar amount that we believe we're going to spend. And I see here, there's nothing in the classified salaries. I have to say the total dollar amount, that $57.32 million is correct, but for sure there will be classified salaries in this in what's spent here as well. I apologize for the way that was apportioned out. The total amount is what's correct on this particular one, and we will bring you the revised amount with the plans that the board will approve before we spend any of those actual dollars as legally required. So what we see is our expenses, we believe, are going to go up from $485.6 million to $542.9 million. I know we're talking about massive dollar figures here. What's important to recognize is the increase in expenses are tied to the grants on the restricted side of the budget, which we cannot spend more than we receive. There are no increases to the unrestricted side of the budget. So with that, what do you need to take away from this as a governing board? We went from an adopted budget with an operating deficit of $30.2 million to an operating surplus of $8.8 million. So with that, we're no longer going to be transferring funds out of Fund 17, and we're going to see the fund balance increase in the current year, absent some of those risks and issues, whatever we bargain with labor, as we settle with those contracts later in the year. So when we look at where those funds exist, we expect to end the year with roughly $57.4 million. That is broken out with roughly $30.4 million in restricted funds that can have to be spent for specific purposes. That includes special education and those grants we talked about. We would have about $16.3 million in the reserve for economic uncertainty, and that would leave $10.4 million unassigned and completely available for the board's discretion, including at the bargaining table. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 45-day revision tonight. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, and appreciate that. And now we go to the questions. Trustee Reckler?
Hold on.
I have a procedural question, if you don't mind.
All right. Trustee Phillips?
You may recall in the spring, we, I'll just say, got in a little bit of trouble about not spending adequate time on our financials from the county. And so based on that, my request would be that if trustees have more than 3 questions on this item, I actually think this is one where people should be able to.
Unrestricted.
I do, because of what it is. And if people have comments that they be able, and I'm saying this for the whole board, we are fiscally in trouble, and to just run through this section of the meeting, I don't think is the best idea.
Okay, but it has to be a time frame to it. I mean, we just can't.
You're the chair. I know the county is watching, the state may be watching too, and I don't want to get in trouble again, but if you want to limit us, that's your choice.
President Christian,
Go ahead.
may I suggest that then each board member is given 5 minutes instead of 2? Because that would give us at least 30 minutes. And it's gonna be 10 o'clock by that point, so we're gonna have to extend the meeting anyways. So 5 minutes should be.
Yeah, fine, it's reasonable.
3 questions and then 5 minutes.
3 questions in 5 minutes? Can you repeat that?
Are you the chair?
Can you repeat that?
I was giving a recommendation, Trustee Phillips. You don't need to give snarky comments.
I actually wasn't
I-
speaking to you.
President Christian,
Let's,
the suggestion
all
is 5
comments go to the
minutes.
chair, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, parliamentarian. My suggestion, President Christian, was 5 minutes for questions and 5 minutes for comments. Per person.
Okay. So
So you can take his suggestion, or create your own.
I tell you what, we just stick with this.
Yes, sir.
We'll stick with this and.
So you got time what this is.
Okay, we're going with the 3 questions and 2-minute comment. Are there any questions? Student trustees?
No question.
All right. Trustee Phillips?
My first question is for, I'm looking for her, Mr. Vetta Cleveland from the county. Hi, Ms. Cleveland.
Hello. Trustee Phillips.
So we have a deficit and there's a lot of money that's about to come our way. What do you suggest? Strike that. Do you suggest we use a portion of those monies to pay down our debt?
The board approved the adopted budget in June, as well as a fiscal solvency plan. And I would definitely recommend that the board supports that fiscal solvency plan. There are reductions included in the fiscal solvency plan that definitely needs to be made. The new revenues have to be balanced between negotiations and the fiscal solvency plan and staying within that plan.
I'm not clear. Do you support or do you recommend that we use a portion of those funds to pay down our debt? That's the question.
This 45-day revision does that. So that what Robert has presented to you actually does balance some of the deficit spending that was in the adopted budget. So I would support that move to offset some of the district's deficit spending, not having to move monies from the reserve over to the general fund, as Mr. McIntyre has presented. I would support those actions.
I'm still not clear. And I think I'm about to use my third question.
Okay.
I hope after I use my third question, I'm clearer, but you could wait me out because you know I can't ask a fourth.
That would not be my intent.
Okay. let me ask you this way, what portion of the new revenues that are coming in do you suggest, or what percentage of the new revenues that are coming in do you suggest that we use to balance our structural deficit?
I do not have a recommendation for that, for a percentage. I think that I've been clear that the district needs to stay within its fiscal solvency plan, continue to implement that plan, to take the new revenues to support the fiscal solvency plan, as well as negotiations. There's a balance between those two. I do not have a specific recommendation. I believe that would be staff's recommendation to make.
Can you give us a recommendation?
I'm not planning to give a recommendation, no.
Those are my questions. I wish I could ask more, but I can't. Thank you.
All right, trustee Reckler.
Thank you. I'll just keep going for as much as I can get in. So thank you for the presentation. Are all the dollars now in from the state, or do you expect more?
So what's in the 45-day represents what's in the enacted budget by the state of California, the final version. I've not been made aware of any other potential increased funding sources for the current year. But I do have concerns based on the fact that we've had 2 negative growth quarters, GDP, gross domestic product, in a row. That meets the technical definition of a recession. And even though the Fed is trying to insist it's not a recession, that is it is one of the things sitting out there. So what my bigger concern is not so much for the revenue this year, it's whether or not we have overstated future year revenue.
Okay, thank you. But you know of no trailer bills or anything, trailer bills coming or anything, like we're done?
I'm not aware of any additional trailer bills for this year.
Okay. When do you expect use to be finalized on some of these outstanding programs?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
When do you expect use to be finalized on some of these one-time funding streams?
Each of the one-time funding streams have plan requirements that we have to bring to the board for approval. So once we have the published allowable uses, we will then bring that to the board, and that'll allow us to frame out the expenditures more accurately.
Okay, maybe I didn't ask that correctly. When do you expect the published allowable uses from Sacramento?
Well, certainly within the next 30 days for the 3 outstanding sources. In fact, as I said, we have early guidance on the arts, music, and instructional block grant already.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what are the reasons that the budget changed from a D- to a C? And how can you reconcile that with all these funds coming in, and yet we're still looking for reductions, significant reductions in 23 and 24?
Great question. So just so you know, the D- to the C on the title, that was my assessment of our financial position, not the state.
Excuse me 1 second, Mr. McIntyre. Excuse me, President Christian, point of order.
What's the point of order?
That was more than 3 questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 3 questions or 5 minutes.
5 minutes. No, it's. The chair said 3 questions during the question time, and then 2 minutes in comments.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you very much. Dr. McIntyre, thank you for your presentation. Really appreciated it. My first question, I want to point us to slide 6. We don't have to pull it up, but just for community. Books and supplies, one of the areas that gets criticized a lot, where we have contracts and consultants. Could you share with the board, community, and me clarity around, is this high for a district our size?
So you said books and supplies and the services and other operating expenditures. The books and supplies would be within the what we'd call the statistical realm of norm for a district and budget our size. However, the services and other operating expenditures would be a high outlier when looking at peer districts of our size and our budget size. There are several reasons for that. When we look at what goes in there, I know there's a lot of conversation about consultants, what's in the services and other operating expenditures. And that is a small portion of the total pot that is that field. Within that field, we also spend a lot of our, for example, we pay all of our utility bills out of that. We pay our transportation to the outside vendor out of that. We pay all of our special ed NPS, our non-public schools, non-public agencies that provide those special education external services to our special ed students. But within that, there are other optional things like where we've got things like contracts for consultants that would be in there. And so this is an area where we have been taking a real active effort to say, where can we really start pitching that number back the other direction? Some of the activities that we've taken more recently include we've essentially identified all the contracts for procurement in this field last year that don't fall in special ed or utilities, and to say what is absolutely required, what do we legally have to do, and what is optional, meaning not legally required. So that way we can try to rank prioritize things that could theoretically be cut to bring back to the board, because if we were every cut would have a consequence either to staff or students. And so we want to make sure that if we are going to recommend things for cut, that it's clear what the consequences or repercussion of that recommendation are before the board is being asked to vote on it.
Thank you, Dr. McIntyre. Since it's a high outlier, service and other expenditures and everything you just shared, do we have a goal on how much we want to cut in those areas this year?
Well, my personal goal is to get us back within the, kind of statistical norm. So, not be outside the highest 25 or lowest 25% as a group, unless we identify specific contracts that keep us there because they're in alignment with the board's strategic vision, mission, and goals that you're currently working on now with the superintendent to finalize. So I think we're really going to have to look at each one of the options that's brought forward holistically. Within as the board's final vision is coalescing as we work toward that point of the year. I don't have a specific dollar figure, though I do have the comparative data from which to draw a dollar figure if you'd like me to bring one back.
Thank you, Dr. McIntyre. My last question, what percentage of our budget as of today do we spend on our staff in salaries and benefits?
The plan for the current year is a little over 81%. And that's of the total general fund.
Thank you. President Christian, that was my third question.
All right, thank you. Trustee Smith-Fall.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre, I want to talk about the solvency plan. This will not be any surprise to you, but I don't want to be in the same position that we were in last March with the conversation about cutting teachers and staff, right? So with the solvency plan that you have presented to us on your 45-day revision, which is the same one that was adopted prior, does that solvency plan, and here's my question, does that solvency plan state that the cuts that will be made are to staff and teachers?
The solvency plan that was included with the adopted budget in June included the expenditures that are currently tied to the exhaustion of the funds being spent this year in the ESSER 3 federal category. So there are a lot of things in the ESSER 3 category because we're spending almost $50 million this year there. Within that, there's both supplies and materials, as we just heard from the prior question, and services and other operating expenditures, as well as people. A lot of the people that you see though are, for example, where we have additional assignments. We may have somebody, for example, a teacher with an additional 0.2. We have dozens of teachers with additional 0.2s being charged there. So a teacher wouldn't necessarily be RIFed, even though we would be cutting out the 0.2 that's funded through that. But there are also people that are fully funded in there. That's just a smaller number of the total. I'm happy to provide a detailed breakdown of where all of the individuals and expenses are charged into ESSER 3 in the current year.
Okay, so I appreciate that you want to provide that. Dr. Hurst, that's what I've been asking for since the RIF vote in March. I've been asking for a detailed line by line where we're spending money and where we're going to save that money that does not impact the students, which means the closest people to them, which is teachers and staff. So I would like that information before I continue to cast votes that will turn around and then are not the value that I hold and that the community holds, right? So I would need that information to have a robust conversation about this. That's one. And then Dr. McIntyre, what plans do we have to break down the budget to our communities to where we are teaching communities about the budget, the language, the needs, the wants, how it plays out, what a 45-day revise means, what adopting in the certain timeline means, when or what plans do we have starting this year, right now, what plans do we have to break down those budgets to our community? That could be study sessions, that could be having a little part in this board meeting to talk about budget all the time. Do you have plans for that? And if you do, can you share those with me? Dr. Hurst, same.
Thank you, Trustee Smith-Folds. What a wonderfully timed question, because we were literally working on the plan for this week. So your timing couldn't have been better. Right now, we're working on what we're currently dubbing the Budget Ambassadors program, and so we're putting together a school finance workshop seminar that we were hoping to actually ask the trustees to help submit names to, because we want to make sure we have representation across the district, where we would help, we would present a very kind of high level and working into, so kind of scaffold the language and skill around school finance, much like board members learned very early on when you became board members doing the California School Boards Association school finance program. So we wanted to roll out a very similar program for any interested stakeholder, whether it be labor partners, community members, any interested staff, that we would do a series of workshops in the afternoon, ideally 1.5 to 2 hour workshops, talking probably 5 to 7 of those, where we would help build that knowledge base. And the goal is to roll it out so it feeds right into the LCAP engagement process. So we can help really, so when people engage in that LCAP development, when they're giving staff feedback, when we're talking about assumptions as an organization, that's the group we would look to say, hey, as community members, what do you think about those? You know, do you feel lukewarm? Are you seeing this differently? And students could be involved too, of course. So it's something we'd want to do in the afternoons or early evenings at a time that kind of, met the largest group of stakeholders that we could. So we're initially thinking of it as kind of a budget ambassadors program. We'd build that core knowledge and then tie in our budget work and assumptions and processes into it as well.
Thank you. Those are my 3 questions. President Christian, I'm complete. I do have comments.
All right, thank you. Clerk is on the soil.
Thank you, President Christian. I was just looking at the time and it's 9:47. Can I make a motion that we extend the meeting until we are done with action items?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Hoy, would you take a friendly amendment?
Sure. Yes.
Extend the meeting until we're done with action items and we allow the student trustees to make their first public board comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you seconding then?
Absolutely. I would second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to confirm.
Go ahead. Trustee Radcliffe.
I'd like to put a second motion on the floor that the meeting is extended until 10:30.
I'm sorry. So clarification that we would just go through each item in order, and then when we hit 10:30, we adjourn.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
So we go backwards. So because this was an amendment, we can get all this done, including the trustee student reports, but we're gonna get everything done by 10:30. So we'll vote on the amendment to end at 10:30.
Okay.
It's not.
All right, we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles abstain.
trustee, Sequoia,
Sumpanya, yes.
right? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez Ho, no.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, no.
trustee Phillips,
Yeah.
and myself, no.
Motion fails. So the motion fails.
Motion fails.
You have an amendment, sir? We have an amendment.
All right.
I move that if the student trustees are allowed to make comments, that the elected board members actually be able to address the community as well.
Is there a second?
I will second that the board gets to make comments also.
All right, we go to a vote. It was second.
And this is only on the. So this vote is only on the amendment, which would include all trustees to make comments.
Can you restate the entire motion that we're voting on, please?
The entire motion that we are voting on is only the amendment to allow all trustees to speak.
And that does not include the time limit of 10:30 because that failed, accurate?
That is correct.
Thank you. So this is just a vote if all board members can speak. Thank you.
All right. We go to a vote. Trustee Miles,
Trustee Miles abstain.
all right, trustee Sequoia,
Sumpanya, yes.
all right, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez Hoy abstain.
all right, trustee Reckler,
Reckler, no.
all right, trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right, trustee Phillips,
Yes.
yes,
I'm sorry. Are you?
yes,
So that is adopted.
it's, the motion is adopted.
So now we would go to the perfected motion, which is to finish all of the action items and hear all of the reports from the board members. Because this is a suspension of the rules, this needs 2/3 to pass.
So we go to the vote.
Yes, sir.
All right, trustee Miles,
Trustee Miles abstain.
All right, trustee Sapora,
Can you repeat it one more time?
The current motion on the floor is to finish all of the action items and hear reports from all of the trustees.
Stefania, yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, no.
all right. Trustee Smith-Fall,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right. Trustee Phillips, oh, did I forget you? I sure did, I'm sorry. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. All right, trustee Phillips,
Yes, please.
yes, please.
Yes, come back.
Come back, okay. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Thank you. Sorry, Gonzalez. So wait, yes.
and I'm a yes on that one.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. And now we move on. All right. So now we go to public hearing. Did we finish E 45-day budget revision? Did we finish that, or we still?
We need to vote to accept that,
Huh?
correct?
We need a vote. We need a,
President Christian, I move that we approve the 45-day revision.
Reckler, second.
all right. Are there any comments? Trustee Smith-Fall?
I think my comment about this is that I want to make sure that we are being clear about our solvency plan, that we are making sure that our plan comes to us in more than just one form. There needs to be a plan A, plan B, plan C. We need to make sure that if the will of the board is to not RIF our teachers and staff, that we have a plan that says this is what the budget looks like, this is what cuts look like, because we're choosing not to RIF. I think one of the things that we need to be careful with the language when we say we need to make cuts. Well, we can choose to make cuts, and we can choose to make cuts where we want them to be. We hold the value as the board. Your budget represents your value. It represents what you believe to be true about who you are. I don't want to have a district that cuts teachers and staff before it cuts books, materials, consultants. It's just not what we need to be, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most of the community. We need to be the type of board and the type of district that leads with empathy and understanding that the people who do the work are the ones who need the protection. And those include those people who are closest to our children and our students. We cannot exist if we do not have the people who are willing to get up and be in front of these kids every single day. That includes admin, teachers, staff, community members, parents. We have to be able to center their experience all over the district in an equitable manner. The students that are going to be impacted by cuts are not the students that are from one zip code or another zip code. They may be from that are flatland schools, where those teachers are first-year teachers and they are the ones that are on the chopping block. We need to understand that and be clear about what our values are when we make these decisions. I'm going to be abstaining from this vote because I haven't got the information that I've been asking for about what a budget looks like when we don't cut our teachers and we don't cut our staff. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre and Dr. Hurst. I look forward to seeing the solvency plan that has other options in it. Those options include starting with consultants, starting with those things that we can cut that are away from the students. Thank you, colleagues.
Are there any other comments? Trustee Reckler?
Thank you. Once again, I do not believe this budget discussion was given the proper time, place, and space, and without interruptions to fully discuss the matter at hand. I'm asking the chair and the board to prioritize and to give board members ample opportunity to ask questions and explain to the public what is going on with the budget. Thank you.
Trustee Phillips?
Thank you. I see you over there. So I agree 100% with Trustee Reckler. We've already been dinged by the county and the state for what I'm just going to call glossing over our budget discussions. We have a responsibility as trustees to have honest and frank conversations about the money. These conversations are uncomfortable. They're not easy conversations, but they go along with the job. And when we don't take the time to have these discussions, frankly, we are not doing our jobs. So I too hope that we're able to prioritize these discussions and that our meetings are structured in a way that staff is able to give these presentations unencumbered and that board members are able to share out and ask questions as well, because this is a huge part of the work. The other thing that I want to say is layoffs are not easy. Cuts that deal with positions are not easy. But that's a conversation that we have to have, and it should not be put off until January, February, and Lord knows it should not be put off until March. Those conversations should start in the next couple of months in order to give everybody a chance to study what needs to be studied, to review what needs to be reviewed, and to talk, because these talks are going to be public and they're going to be extensive. And if we're going to get through this together, we need to do it in ample time so everyone can process together. Please start these discussions in the next couple of months.
Clerk Zalatoris?
Thank you, President Christian. I want to start by thanking Dr. McIntyre, Ms. Cleveland for your presentation and the work that's going on in the budget. Also going to give a shout out to Dr. McIntyre's department. I'm hearing great things about transparency in your department, the way that you are giving sites their allocations. So kudos to you. Thank you for doing that work. And I do want to challenge us. I want to challenge staff that we have to cut books and supplies and service and other expenditures. As someone who works with a lot of budgets in the Bay Area with districts, this is a very large amount, both in books and supplies and service and other expenditures. We have to cut those areas before we cut staff. I am committed to a solvency plan, but we have to cut those areas first. Because otherwise, rightly so, people are gonna say we're not doing actually the work around the budget. I also challenge the board that if we're not giving enough time to the budget, President Christian and I are getting requests weekly from the board members around items they want to see on the agenda. So we're not able to spend on the budget as much because we're getting requests from all of you. And we're not able to finish items because we can't extend most of the time after 10:30. So we have to bring those items back every time. So I challenge all of us to be better board members, more efficient, and if we need to, stay past 10:30, because that way we can actually spend time on these items. Last thing, I completely disagree about layoffs. They gotta wait. We gotta do the work first on cutting other areas first. Layoffs before the holidays is horrible. We gotta wait. We gotta wait for the spring for the work for staff that is currently doing around contracts and consultants and the 4,000 and the 5,000 items. And then we can talk about staff. So I'll end with thank you, staff. I know that's not an easy conversation. That's the end of my time.
Are there any more comments? What I'm going to do, just inform Tammy, she said I can extend this like another 10 minutes. If we need to add some more questions, then we can do that. So anyone else has any more questions?
President Christian, I have a point of order.
Go ahead.
We got to figure out how we keep the same energy for everybody's topic and everything that we do, right? Because we limit questions in one field, we open up questions in the other field, we move it around. And I know it's the pleasure of the president. I'm not saying that it's not, but it would be helpful if we had an idea what gets extended and what doesn't. I actually agree very much with what Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy said. We need to be able to stay past 10:30 to do the entire work of the board. The entire work of the board means the entire agenda to do its due diligence on every item that we have to talk about. So again, I'm just asking at the pleasure of the president that we make sure that we keep the same energy around all of the topics, because every last one of these topics are very crucial to the running of the district. I am not discounting the budget conversation. We need to have the budget conversation, but we also need to have conversation around the other items that come to the agenda in a robust manner. Thank you so much, President Christian. I don't have a problem extending the budget conversation.
All right, thank you. Trustee Phillips.
Thank you. And for the record, the board voted to stay after 10:30. So, Mr. McIntyre, is it possible to begin discussions around staffing? And I'm particularly talking about reductions or layoffs. Is it possible to begin discussions before the holidays and not vote on anything before the holidays?
The earliest we would be in a position to really engage meaningfully around that topic would be the end of October, beginning of November.
With the level of tension that currently exists in this district around staffing, would it be beneficial to start these conversations earlier rather than later?
By earlier would October, November qualify, or are you referring to the March deadline?
By earlier, I'm saying earlier than, like last time we waited literally until I think we did it on March 9th and the deadline was March 15th. What I'm asking you is, do you believe that these conversations would be more successful as far as staff is concerned, unions are concerned, and the public is concerned, if we gave ourselves more time to have these discussions?
I think time is better for both staff and the governance team to consider any complex topic like staffing.
So do you think that it would be best for us to start talking? And I'm not saying voting, but do you think it would be best for us to start having these discussions in October, or I think you said late October, early November, to give ourselves time to land safely?
Trustee Phillips, I'm struggling with answering your question because what you're asking me is very much a matter of governance. With the staff will very much be in a position to provide the board the data around this topic and how it aligns or does not align with the assumptions that we use from the staffing matrix to build our budget on what would be ideal. Regarding the timeliness and benefits for the board to make a decision, or what would be best practices, I would certainly say any time we can increase the amount of time that the brilliant people on staff can not only put the information together, but hear our labor partners give feedback and their positions and increase the brain trust that's put forth to this problem before the board has to make a decision is always a good thing.
Thank you. President Christian, is it okay if I just mix this comment in here since we're is that okay? What I think is going to happen is at some point, there's going to be a recommendation around reductions of positions. And we say don't talk about people, talk about positions, but we know that the people are in positions. So it's hard to really separate the two. And what I think is going to happen is when these recommendations are made, a lot of people are going to be very upset. And people are going to say the recommendations are not right. People are going to say the numbers are not right. I mean, we saw a little bit of it last time. And so what I think, and then there's people are going to be arguing, people are going to be all of these things are going to happen. And what I really believe should happen is that we should build into this process enough time for everybody to get it out. Whatever it is that they need to express, to share, there needs to be time built in. So we can people can get upset, and people will be high and people could be low. And then at the end, we could all kind of come back together. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we actually give ourselves time to do the back and forth. And so that's why I'm asking, I'm not trying to say that we have to vote on reductions before Thanksgiving. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the discussion about our staffing needs, that should happen, that conversation should be happening as soon as we can actually have a real discussion. Staff is saying that's the end of October, the beginning of November. That's fine. And it might take us 3 months to actually have this conversation as a community where everybody actually feels heard. So when the actual final decision and vote is made, everybody knows that they got to say what was on their minds and hearts and that they were heard. Because what happened last time, people didn't feel heard. And if we do that again, we may have the exact same results, which were not successful. That's why I'm advocating that we begin the discussion early. I'm not saying that we have to vote in November, but we can, in my opinion, it's not wise to start the discussion later.
Okay. Go ahead. Cleveland.
I just want to echo the board. The district's budget right now is of utmost importance, especially with having a fiscal solvency plan in place. So having more discussion and communication, I truly support. I also want to say in terms of budget reductions, the sooner the better in terms of bringing that information forward when staff has the information available. So I would support sooner than later. And I think the timeline is around October, November. I would definitely support that. But the item at hand, what's at hand for the board to approve tonight is a 45-day revision, which is extremely important in that revision increases the district's revenue significantly as it relates to the final state budget. So the board approved the budget in June with the fiscal solvency plan. Subsequent to that approval, the states approved the final state budget, which included additional revenue. So the action tonight is for the budget to be revised to increase the revenue, unrestricted and restricted, many programs and services that support the students of the district. And so I'm encouraging the board to approve this item and also stating that I agree, more discussions around the budget reductions is definitely needed for the district to move forward towards fiscal recovery.
All right, we're going to Trustee Smith Paul and then at the Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you so much. So, Ms. Cleveland, and I want to be really clear on this so I can make sure I'm making an intelligent decision. When we vote tonight, are we voting tonight to lock in not only the revised budget that we have, right? The new money coming in and it's going to revise our budget. We're not only voting to lock that in, but are we voting to lock in the solvency plan that was presented to us? Or are there opportunities after this vote to then turn around and have conversations about the solvency plan and have that come and be adjusted to our values that we discuss as a board and after we hear from the community, our labor partners, et cetera?
The approval tonight is for the 45-day revision. And that's been the documents that support that. Robert would need to clarify I believe the fiscal solvency plan was approved with the adopted budget.
It was. So it was approved with the adopted budget. So they go hand in hand. So if we approve one tonight, we're approving the other, which is the solvency plan that Dr. McIntyre put forward. Is that accurate?
Robert, can you clarify? I think tonight is just the 45-day revision, which increases the revenue as presented in the presentation, unrestricted and restricted, with some increases in restricted expenditures as it relates to those restricted revenues, kind of projected expenditures that would be used for the restricted revenues towards the restricted revenue and those programs and services. And then some revisions around the monies that would be needed from the district's special reserve, but not a fiscal solvency plan.
There are no changes in the fiscal solvency plan attached to tonight's 45-day revision. We are purely talking about the changes in revenue.
There's no changes to that plan, but if we vote yes tonight, we're not voting yes on that plan that's already been done, correct? We're voting yes on just the revisions that you're talking about now. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
When does, and Dr. Hurst, maybe you can help answer this for me. When does the solvency plan come back to the board? The current one that we voted in, when does that plan come back to the board? Does that have to be agendized? Or when does that plan come back to the board with an understanding of the board may not want to have reductions starting with teachers and staff? When does that come back? Month, timeline, when does that come back to the board?
If I might, Dr. Hurst, a really good time to bring that back would be on the leading edge of the conversation around staffing, because we want to make sure, one, that we've identified and brought the changes to the contracts, as Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy mentioned. On the front end of that, we've integrated the plans for expenditure of those 3 different block grants that we talked about tonight, where there's an opportunity to leverage and minimize the negative impact of that solvency plan at every step. We want to make sure we've taken each of those steps. So when we do come back and talk about what we have to do under the solvency plan, hopefully it's as small as possible. And as you know, if we have the ability to get all the staff out from under that, great. You know, so the goal is to really minimize that as much as possible, so you have the least negative thing to try to work through. And so that's why I needed to know where all the staff lands, all the hires take place, and how much of the goal in the solvency plan just happened through natural attrition in the current year.
So your commitment is to, when you bring back a solvency plan discussion, your commitment is to lessen to the greatest degree possible the number of people that will be let go or have to be let go, or the conversation has to be around that touch the children first. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
And that includes bringing back a plan that looks like it has reduction in contracts, reduction in books and materials, reduction in all of those other 400s, 500s, all of those other spaces in the budget that don't directly impact students and teachers and faculty and staff. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I also have a question about when is the best time to talk to our labor partners about the budget? Do you feel, well, let me ask it this way, Dr. McIntyre. Do you feel that now coming back with the 45-day revision and not having contracts in place with our labor partners puts us at a disadvantage when approving the budget, because there may be some negotiation that we need to do past the boundary, let's say? And I don't know if I was clear with that. Was I clear with that, Ms. Cleveland?
No, you
Okay.
would have to restate it.
Okay, let me restate that. Currently, we don't have contracts with our labor partners. We are in the midst of beginning, continuing, starting, talking about our labor partners about negotiations. Those negotiations will have a financial impact on the budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
When is the best time to make sure that what we're looking at, when we're looking at a budget and we're making sure that we are clear and transparent with the community, when is the best time to have those conversations with labor partners? So when we're looking at a budget, we're looking at the cleanest version of that budget. I know we have to wait to May revise because that gives us more numbers, right? And then after May revise, what's the next step? When is the best time to have those conversations so we're looking at the cleanest version of the budget? Was that a little bit clear?
Yeah, well, you have the 45-day revise right now, so that's a public document. And then you'll have the first interim, and all of those should be always provided and communicated with the labor partners.
And the first interim comes in
December.
what month?
December.
December.
On or before December 15th. Mhm.
Thank you so much. So on or before December 15th, when we have the first interim, we'll see numbers. Again, we'll see revised numbers after we have had negotiations with labor. Is that correct, Dr. McIntyre?
You'll see the results of the adjustments we're making along the way. So their ability to integrate some of the block grant programs with the ending ESSER funds, any contracts we had last year that we thought were coming into this year that we could cut, and any settlements we've made with labor will be, of course, included in that. But we don't wait for the required financial statements to share financial data. As you know, tomorrow we're going to meet with UTR and I'm going to share with them. We're going to talk through the most current information, which is the 45-day. But every time we make a change, the most important thing to look at on a financial statement is the date that's printed, or the as of date, because financial information changes 10 minutes after we hit print, because it's a living, breathing document that represents our our plan compared to actuals. And so every time we have a significant or material change, we're going to talk about it because there is nothing to hide, ever.
Thank you both. Thank you, Ms. Cleveland. Thank you, Dr. McIntyre. I am complete with those questions. If we have a round of comments, I do have comments.
Okay, Clerk Hoy, did you have anything?
Yes, thank you, President Christian. Dr. McIntyre, let's say that your staff ends up doing a larger goal to cut the additional things, the 4 and the 5,000s. How long do you think that work will take to really do it right and bring that to the board?
That will occupy the vast majority of my department's time between now and the end of October.
So if then on top of that, we add possible layoffs, is it really a end of October for both those areas? Is it really realistic?
These are concurrent pieces of work done by 2 different parts of the staff. So the position control people don't really do the stuff around materials and supplies and contracts. So I think we can work on both of those simultaneously.
This question is for Dr. Hurst or Dr. Greenwood. Knowing with last month and a half, we've had to recruit close to 200 people and we still have close to 50 openings. Do you think that us talking about layoffs right now or in the end of October will be good for our culture?
At this time, I would have to say no, because of the number of openings that would create less morale across the district. And it would defeat our recruiting efforts in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Greenwood. Dr. Hurst, anything you'd like to add to that?
I would agree with what Dr. Greenwood just shared.
Thank you both.
So again, we are way over the 10-minute time limit that you established, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Tammy, I couldn't hear that.
She was saying we over that time limit. We over that, the time limit?
Sorry, did you say we're over our time limit?
Yeah.
We had time limit? Because other trustees didn't get time limits, and now you're telling me I have a time limit.
The chair had said we would extend this item for 10 minutes. And there were no further restrictions put on anyone
So-
speaking. So we have used all of the time.
So we extended for 10 minutes total, yet only two got to, okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, I understand.
Trustee Phillips.
I want to encourage us to pause sometimes and breathe and process some of the things that we're hearing and that we're saying. So the normal cutoff for layoffs is March.
Point of order, President Christian.
Okay.
I was cut off and said there was no more
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
yet we're allowing another trustee to now speak. Could we please be consistent?
Yeah, because
He already got to speak and I didn't. And he even made comments and didn't, and
Yeah.
when we were doing questions.
yeah,
So
we go to,
We had a motion to extend timeline.
Trustee Gonzalez Hoy, did you have additional things you wanted to say?
I did have comments and
So,
questions, but we have to move on.
If I may, I move, because I have one comment I would like to make, but I move that Trustee Gonzalez Hoy be able to complete his thoughts, whatever they may be. I move that we extend the item for 10 minutes.
all right.
Trustee Phillips, as much as I appreciate your sentiment, I do want to say it is 10:30 and we have other items, so I will email the rest of my thoughts to the board. So that we can finish the rest of our agenda on time since our student trustees first board meeting.
We're staying after 10:30 like you asked, so you can make the comment.
So because we went into discussion, we automatically seconded the item. So we've had a motion, we've had a second. We're in discussion and there's actually no discussion on extending time for 10 minutes. So we will need to go straight to a vote and the vote will be on, do we extend this item another 10 minutes?
Would you like to extend it?
No.
Roll call. Vote. Okay. All right, trustee Miles,
Trustee Miles abstain.
trustee Saponia,
Symphonia abstain.
all right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Regular, yes.
I'm here. I know I didn't hear it.
Trustee said.
No, I did not hear what she said.
yes.
Okay. Trustee Smith Fall,
I very much want to hear what trustee Gonzalez Hoy says, but I want to make sure that we allocate the time evenly. Thank you.
Was that a yes?
That's a yes.
all right. Trustee Phillips,
Yeah,
all right, and yes, motion passes. We had 10 minutes.
Did you want to go back to trustee Phillips or the trustee?
We go back to trustee clerk and then we go to trustee Phillips.
President Christian, if I may, I need to regroup my thoughts, so trustee Phillips can go first and then I'll go. Thank
Okay,
you.
trustee Phillips.
what I was gonna say, President Christian, is that we're recruiting up into and past the March 15 deadline. So if we don't start our conversation around reductions because we don't want to hurt recruiting, we will never have those conversations because we recruit in January, we're recruiting in February, we're recruiting in March. People are deciding if they're going to leave in January, February, and March. So I just want people to really stop and think about the timelines, because if that's the reason not to start the discussions, we never will. Because it will hurt the recruiting at any of those times. That's the comment.
All right. Trustee, clerk of the school.
Thank you, President Christian. Thank you, Trustee Phillips, for giving me more time. So what I would say is, what I was gonna say is that I do not believe we have to start the conversations on layoffs yet. We gotta concentrate on cutting everything else, because the biggest resource and the best resource we can give our students, like we argue in the spring, is our teachers, our classified staff, our principals, right? So before we start talking about layoffs, which we might have to eventually do in the spring, as our plan says, we have to cut the other areas, which are very large. We have $147 million in books and supplies and service and other expenditures, which are contracts, consultants, yes, paying for electricity. But there are districts larger than ours that spend a lot less in those areas than we do. And there are districts that are outpacing us in academics that spend more in staff than we do. So to me, our priorities are not aligned. And if we want to do this correctly, we've got to take a step back and really prioritize cutting what is not direct services for our kids, which is not happening in the classroom. So we have to do a very deep dive into the 4,000s and 5,000s. Dr. Hurst started that work, but that's going to take months. When on top of that, right now we are prioritizing staffing our schools. We have most of our principals, we just heard 40 or 50 staff from central office in classrooms. And unfortunately, even though it's putting out a fire and might not be long-term thinking, we have to do that right now. That is priority. So if all of a sudden we tell them, you got to bring us back a plan for layoffs and a plan for cutting operations by October, they're going to have to drop everything else. There's no way around it. So my suggestion to the board and really for our community is, first, as the plan has said, and we had talked about in the spring, let's cut the fat first. If that is not enough, then unfortunately we might have to talk about people and layoffs. But we have to do that first this fall. Concentrate, also let HR concentrate on recruitment for schools right now and supports as we reopened. And then let's talk about people in the spring. And hopefully by then we're also done with negotiations and we can have a collaborative conversation with labor. If we start having layoff conversations in October while negotiations are happening, it is going to be crazy. And it's not going to lead to positive conversations. Layoffs never are positive, but there is a way to do it collaboratively if we can prove to community transparently that we have done that work. Now, I know we just took this conversation completely a different way, Trustee Phillips, you and I, and we are standing in opposite ends. We have to figure out a way to collaborate. I totally understand that for our community's hope, but we have to really sit back before we scare people, because the second you talk about layoffs, you scare people. You really do. And right now we cannot scare people when our culture is the way it is. Okay, I'm rambling. I'll let all of you have the rest of the time. Thank you.
All right, Trustee Smith.
Thank you, President Christian. I want to just talk about some facts, some things that we know to be true. One, we know that people leave because they don't feel valued, period. We know that people leave, our teachers, our staff, our admin, our district staff, people leave because they don't feel valued. They leave because they don't feel heard. They leave because they don't feel appreciated. Full stop. We know that we have an inflated budget in some of our areas in the 400s, 500s, whatever the case may be. We know that. We know that that's an area that can be cut. We know that we can cut consultants. We know that. Full stop. We know that if we talk about layoffs now, next month, October, November, December, that we're lowering morale. Director of HR just told us full stop. We know that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the community to make sure that we keep the classroom staffed with qualified teachers, that we keep the buildings functioning because they have staff in there to do it, from our custodians to our yard duty supervisors, to our CSSs, everyone that touches our children, full stop. We have a fiduciary responsibility. So because we have that responsibility, if we are not accurately looking at the numbers in totality, and we're not training our community to be able to have an engaging conversation with us by teaching them how to represent and look at the numbers too, how to understand the numbers, then we're not doing our jobs. We're not. The Board of Education is to be here to not only educate ourselves, but to educate others. And around budget, we have not been doing the best work that we can around educating our community. We just haven't. We need to be better in that field. We need to be better all the way around and start valuing people, because right now, teaching is such a high sought after field, which means you can go anywhere and teach. People will go where they feel valued. People will go where they feel that they are appreciated. People will go where they feel that they are supported through resources and through an understanding board that says, I know what you are doing. I'm willing to come and make sure that I'm supporting you. I'm willing to make sure that you have proper facilities to do your work, that you have proper materials to do your work, that you have the proper human resources available to do your work, that you're not period subbing and it's the second week of school, that you feel safe in your classroom. All of this stuff is conversations we should be having before we start having the conversation of who to let go and how many. I'm complete.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, we go to the vote.
We already have a motion.
We already had a motion
The motion is to adopt the 45-day budget.
to adopt the 45-day budget plan. And we'll start out with student trustee. Trustee Miles,
Trustee Miles abstain.
trustee Sapanya.
Santana abstain.
All right, clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
All right, trustee Smith-Bo.
Smith-Folds abstains.
All right, trustee Phillips
Yeah.
and myself, a yes. Motion passes. All right. We go to E3, public hearing. Accept public comment and approve Contra Costa administrators. Public hearing, E3.
Thank you, President Christian. Hi, communities. Clerk Gonzalez, he asked me to read this next part. This is the public hearing on the sunshine and the initial proposals for the West Contra Costa Administrators Association and the West Contra Costa Unified School District. Tonight, the district board will conduct a public hearing on the initial proposals of the West Contra Costa Administrators Association and the district pursuant to the sunshine requirements of the California Government Code Section 3547. During the public hearing, the focus will be on gathering of input from the public, including other employees and parents, regarding the initial bargaining proposals being presented. The purpose of this meeting is to inform the public about the topics of negotiations between the district and the West Contra Costa Administrators Association. Tonight's meeting will proceed as follows. First, the board president will open the public hearing. Second, Conrad Tanasichuk, Director of Labor Relations / District Negotiator, will be given 10 minutes to make the presentation to the board regarding the initial proposals from the West Contra Costa Administrators Association and the district. Third, upon the conclusion of the Director of Labor Relations presentation, the board president will take public comment on this item. The total time for comment from each participant will be limited to 1 minute. The total time allotted for the public comment on this matter is 10 minutes. Fourth, board members may ask clarifying questions to district staff. Then at that point, the public hearing will be closed. At this point, I will pass it back to Board President to do the opening of the public hearing on the initial proposal of the West Contra Costa Administrators Association and the district. Then we will invite the Director of Labor Relations / District Negotiator to make presentation as noted above. Back to you, President Christian.
All right. Open it up for public. No, you open up the public hearing. Public hearing. Ssc Chapter.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez Hoy, Dr. Hurst, and school board trustees and community. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and present in front of you all. As Trustee Gonzalez Hoy indicated, that pursuant to Government Code in California, Section 3547, we are here tonight as part of the sunshining process that must be completed prior to entering into the contract negotiations with WCCAA. Once an agreement is reached with each unit, the agreement will be reviewed by the Contra Costa County Office of Education under the requirements of AB 1200 and then brought to the school board for ratification. Pursuant to the Educational Employment Relations Act, the initial proposals to be negotiated by the school district and labor union must be submitted at a public hearing at the governing board. The initial proposals of the West Contra Costa Unified School District to the West Contra Costa Administrators Association, along with the initial proposals from the West Contra Costa Administrators Association to the West Contra Costa Unified School District, will be allowed for public comment on each of the proposals. We are under a current one-year collective bargaining agreement between West Contra Costa Unified School District and West Contra Costa Administrators Association, which expires June 30th, 2022. These proposals are for a successor agreement between both parties. Both WCCUSD and WCCAA had posted the initial proposals for the School Board of Education to receive public comment on the website as well as at each school site. And we are requesting public comment on these initial proposals and approval of the receipt of the submitted proposals. These proposals are for, again, a successor agreement. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been much discussion about memos of understanding which were entered into to address specific one-time or short-term issues, such as changes in normal working conditions, which are subject to the collective bargaining agreement. These proposals are not related to any current or future MOU. It's important to the public to understand that the West Contra Costa School District and the West Contra Costa Administrators Association are currently addressing conditions impacting programs, but these contract negotiations presented tonight are not connected in any way to these discussions, and public comment should be limited to the terms of being sunshined and not directed towards any current MOU. Again, the financial impact will be determined after negotiations are completed and an AB 1200 procedure will be submitted to the county and also for approval by the school board for ratification. With that, the proposals by West Contra Costa Unified School District to West Contra Costa Administrators Association include Article 1, Agreement, Article 2, Recognition, Article 3, Salary, Article 6, Grievance Procedure, Article 8, Leaves, Article 11, Filling of Bargaining Unit Vacancies, Article 12, Benefits, Article 14, Harassment Policy, Article 18, Reclassification, Article 19, Non-Discrimination, and Article 23, end-of-year release or reassignment. The district reserves the right to open any other articles as needed during the negotiations and will exchange proposals at the bargaining table. The district reserves the right to add, amend, or delete proposals during the contract negotiations. The West Contra Costa Administrators Associations request to open up Article 2.1 recognition, Article 3.1.3 salary, Article 12.4 cash in lieu, Article 21 safety, and Appendix A salary schedule. Furthermore, WCCA opens those following articles. However, nothing in the initial proposal is intended to preclude WCCAA from making additional proposals in any article that's opened up by either WCCAA or the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanasachuk. At the direction of the board president, we would now like to open public comment on this item. The total time for comment for each participant will be limited to 1 minute. The total time allotted for all public comment on this matter will be 10 minutes. At this time, public comment is open. Do we have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Thank you so much. Public comment is concluded. Turn it back over to the president for a motion to approve.
All right. So do we take questions? Or you want to move to first, any questions? Okay. All right, we'll ask questions. Are there any questions? Trustee Smith-Fall.
Mr. Conrad, can you give a public explanation of what sunshining is? Just a small definition, a summary definition.
Thank you, Trustee Smith-Folds. It's a process under the California Government Code that allows for each of the respective parties to bring forth to the school board and to the public or the community respective provisions or articles that each party wants to bring forth for opening up for a successor agreement.
Thank you so much. So what we're saying is we are voting to ensure that everybody can have a conversation about what you just listed out, but it could be more things also, but that the conversation can begin. Is that accurate?
Yes, trustee.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, need a motion. Clerk, this is Gillespie. Trustee Clerk.
Thank you, President Christian. I make a motion that we approve the initial bargaining proposal from WCCAA and WCCUSD.
All right.
Smith-Folds seconds.
All right, and we go to the vote. Student trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yay.
All right. Student trustees Sapanya.
Singhania, yeah. Singhania, yeah.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right. Trustee Smith-Fall.
Smith-Folds, yes.
All right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And myself, a yes. Motion passes.
Point of order, President Christian.
What's the point of order?
We can't see Trustee Reckler. Is she, I didn't hear her vote. Is she not in the room? Can
She's
you?
not here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Uh-huh.
So moving on to item 8E4.
E4, Certificated Board Authorization Education Code.
Dr. Greenwood.
These are our variable term waivers. We're asking for approval to provide applicants with additional time to complete their requirements for their credential to offer service to the district.
Are there any questions? Motion? Trustee Gonzalez Hoy,
Thank you, President Christian. I move that we approve the the waivers for I was looking for the right word, variable term waivers. Thank you.
all right.
Smith Folds seconds.
It's been second. Trustee Philip? Comment?
May I speak?
Yeah.
Dr. Hurst, it would be good, I think, if there was some way to message to the community why we do waivers. Because there are people who believe that, and I believe that, everyone who is in this system, should have, their certificate, but that's not always possible. And I think that the community or some members of the community don't always understand like why that happens. And also that we're not the only district that does this, and that we're not breaking any rules, that the law actually allows us, if we follow the process, to do this. So I know, I've been getting pinged on Facebook about this, and people, I think there just needs to be some education. And that this is not a solution or a permanent solution, but there are very few options that we have when we're not able to recruit the personnel that we want, or that we want most, because people who do come into the system this way, we value them as well. So that's my only comment.
Okay. All right, to the vote. Student trustees, trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yes.
All right, trustee Sapanya.
Sumpanya, yes.
All right, clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, so yes.
All right. Smith Folds.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And myself a yes. Motion passes. E5 certificated.
Also, Dr. Greenwood.
We're also requesting approval for the provisional internship permit known as PIP, which allows them, the district to hire individuals who have not yet met their subject matter competence requirements. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion? Question?
I move the item. Oh, you had questions? I'm sorry.
You actually,
Yeah.
you were doing good.
Are there
You actually
questions?
have to say the item.
I will say the, I don't,
Yeah,
I'm-
move to approve.
I don't have to say all that, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because you're my first,
Thank
but I
you.
can say all that.
Are there,
I move item E5 certificated provisional internship permit.
I second.
all right. Are there any questions? All right. If not, we go to the vote. Go ahead.
And this is just a similar item to what I said last time, so I won't repeat it, but I think it's important for the public to know. So we could do a message or a communication as to why we do this, and and let people know that everybody else is doing it across the state as well. That it's not just us.
All right, we go to the vote. Student trustee, trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yay.
All right, trustee Sapanya.
Sumpanya, yes.
All right, clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, so yes.
All right, thank you. Trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And myself, yes. All right. E6. Ratification of MOU with UTR settlement agreement. Helms.
Thank you, trustees. Last year, the Helms School had agreed on a MOU for a block schedule. This was brought to the board towards the end of last year, school year, and was approved. One area that was missing from that was in relation to period subbing. Accordingly, we had completed being UTR executives, and the district had completed an MOU for the period that has subsequently finished for the 21-22 school year for the original MOU that had been approved. Based on that schedule where teachers had worked, the period subs should have been paid at the rate of 1.5 periods per block period that they subbed. That is what the MOU had read or proposed, as that was area that was silent in the initial one that had been agreed upon. The estimated cost for that is $18,075. The recommendation is that the board support this. Thank you.
Is there a motion? Trustee Phillips.
I move that we approve item E6, ratification of MOU with UTR settlement agreement, Helms Middle School.
A second.
All right, it's been moved, it's been second, and to the vote. Trustee Miles.
Trustee Miles, yay.
All right. Trustee Sapanya.
Sumpanya, yes.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right. Trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And myself, yes. Motion passes. E7, approval of employment contract.
Yes, Board of Trustees, we are recommending the approval of the interim Associate Superintendent of Human Resources contract under the terms of the contract as referenced in the package. Thank you.
Is there a motion? I don't know which hand. Trustee Phillips.
I move item E7, approval of employment contract, interim associate superintendent, human resources.
All right.
Second.
Second. All right. We go to the vote. Trustee Miles.
Miles, yes.
All right. Trustee Sapanya.
Sumpanya, yes.
All right. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right. Trustee Smith Fall.
I just want to remind the president that we need to call for comments also. Trustee Smith Folds, yes.
All right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. And yes. Motion passes. All right. We go to E8. Consideration approval of the First Amendment.
Thank you, President Christian. Good evening again, communities. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. The next item is the board's discussion and possible approval of the amendment to the April 14, 2021 contract of employment with Superintendent Dr. Chris Hurst. The proposed amendment contains the following material items. 1, the term of the contract is extended 1 additional year to June 30th, 2025. 2, the superintendent's salary schedule is extended by 1 step, such that it will consist of 4 steps, with each step continuing to provide for 2% annual increase in salary. The superintendent's base salary of $270,000 will be increased by 2% for the 2022-23 school year in accordance to the superintendent's salary schedule set forth in the superintendent employment agreement. That concludes the summary of the amendment of the contract. A complete copy may be reviewed on the district's website as an attachment to this agenda item. Also, a copy is available from the district office upon request. Thank you. Back to you, President Christian.
All right, thank you. And now we need a motion.
President Christian, I move that we approve the amendments to the Superintendent Dr. Hurst's contract.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second? All right. Trustee Phillips?
Second.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Smith.
I think that we have to look at this with all clarity and with all transparency. Dr. Hurst, you came into the district at a time that was very hard, right? It was a time of transition. It was a time of the hope to move the district forward, right? To move the district forward in all areas, which is the reason why we have our strategic planning. It's the reason why we hired you to do this work. I think that we need to be very clear that the work stalled because of lots of things, right? I want to publicly say the same thing that I've said to you. I think that you have people who are putting holes in the boat, right? We're on the water and holes are being put in the boat. So I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to clean that up as a board so we can fully support you in your next moves in the district and make sure that we're able to move the district forward as we all want it to be moved forward. I think that we are considering the approval of some of the things that you asked for. I think that we need to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what we're asking from you, right? We know that you're asking some things from us as a board, and we need to be better evaluators of our employee, and you are our one employee. We need to make sure that we are clear, we're transparent, and we set expectations, and we hold that level of accountability. So thank you for the work that you've done. I want to make sure that we are doing all that we can to support the agreed upon vision of the district and the work in front of us. And we make sure that we are clear with what our expectations are as a board and as a community. Also want to make sure that when we go about doing evaluations, that we do a 360 evaluation. I want to hear from the community. I want to hear from our teachers. I want to hear from my staff. I want to hear from all of those people that you impact and that you touch. Thank you. I am complete, President Christian.
All right, thank you. All right, we go to the clerk.
Thank you. I'll make it really short because I know it's late. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Hurst because we chose him, but he also chose us. And he's been here for a year, even though it's probably felt like 10. We have a lot of needs in our district, but we're also a very beautiful place. And our students and our staff really make this a beautiful place. So I'm really thankful that you're still here and that you're leading us through yet another hard year, but with a lot of promise. And I know that all of us have a lot of high expectations of you, but I know you're going to step up to the plate like you have in the past. So I just want to say thank you. And I am here to support you, as Trustee Smith-Folds said, with those high expectations, of course. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to voting yes on this item.
All right. Trustee Phillips, did you?
This energy, and we talked about growth mindset earlier, and we talked about growth mindset in relation between the staff and the board. So being in the superintendent's corner, being in the corner of the cabinet members and other folks who work in the district. And I'm going to speak a little bit about this later on in closing comments, but let's make that a constant thing. Let's make that a continual discussion. because I think we need to encourage the superintendent, not just on this evening, and I'm talking about publicly, right? Not just on this evening, but really pretty much every chance we get, like my dad, and other folks would say, praise in public, correct in private. And it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. So those are my comments.
President Christian, can I add one more thing? It's short. It's very short.
Okay.
Dr. Hurst, I want to praise in public, but I also want to make sure that you understand who I am, right? We have gotten to know each other over the last year, and the community, and you know that I'm not a sticker giver. I don't just give stickers out. It is earned, and it is earned to a degree and a level of the support that I give in that. As a teacher, right? There's an expectation I set for my class, but also provide all the resources for them to make sure that they hit that expectation and then succeed that expectation. So the vote that you hear coming from me is not a vote against you at all. It's a vote to say the growth mindset, you may not be there yet, but I have full assurance that you are on your way there. It is a path that I know that you can take and that you can get to, but my abstention is just that. And it's because when you get my yes, it is a time to stamp it on your forehead as a pure tattoo of 100% we in it, and we're in it with support, in all honesty and clarity. But you do have my support, and I provide those resources I provide those resources that you need to get you to where you want to go and where this district needs to go. So thank you very much. I do want to say thank you, but that's why you will hear an abstention from me tonight. I'm complete, President Christian.
Okay, thank you. All right, now to the vote.
Good evening, everyone. If you can still hear me, they froze. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to send out a quick text to let them know that they froze. Again, please don't go anywhere. If you can hear me, if you have my number, shoot me a text so I know that you're able to still hear me. Okay, I'm going to send out, oh, we're leaving. Hang on. We'll be back in a minute. Hang on. Let's see. Hold tight. Don't go anywhere. Hang tight. Okay, you guys can hear me. Great. Thank you for texting me. So hang tight. I just sent out a message to the board that they are gone, but we are still here. Thank you, everyone. Oh, look how many people have my phone number. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Hold on tight. Let me text out again. Okay, it looks like they're coming back. And we'll run back that vote because it looks like they froze at the beginning of the vote. Let's see if Ms. Genesis is coming back on. One second, let's see. Oh, I hear someone. Okay. They're coming. Okay, so I just got the message, their Wi-Fi went out. So they are trying to correct that. Please hang on. We are going to get back up and running as soon as possible. Thank you so much for staying with us. Those of you who just may be joining us, the Wi-Fi went out at Dejan. They're trying to get it back up and running. We are still here. They are in communication and they are trying to get everything back up and running. Thank you so very much for staying. Thank you for your patience. I am waiting for an update, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your patience. They just said they are waiting. They are trying to get back up. They're waiting for the Wi-Fi. Looks like people are coming back. We'll see. Just give us one more minute. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I think they're coming back. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for waiting. Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy. I think everyone's coming back. Thank you.
Trustee Smith Foltz, we can't hear you yet, so we gotta wait for it to transition into the room. So we're still on recess for a few more minutes.
Perfect. Thank you for that update.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for that update. Thank you.
No problem. The internet just came back though.
Okay.
Thank you for waiting, everyone.
And Trustee Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy, just so you're aware, y'all froze at the beginning of the vote. So we need to run back until the beginning of the vote. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. I'll let
No
Chris know.
worries. So if y'all are talking, we can't hear you, just so you know. Okay, y'all aren't talking. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Smith Folds, can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. President Christians, they just can't hear us through the main. Sorry, point of order, President Christian. None of our votes were heard by the community. Because the mic of the room is not connected to Zoom. So I just unmuted my computer, so if we just do it again, they should hear us now. Mhm.
Sorry about that. All right, trustees. All right. Questions on the sword?
Gonzalez, oh yes.
Smith Folds abstains, but remember, we're only hearing one kind of, President Christian, we can hear you, but you're muffled, so everyone has to speak louder. Thank you. Trustee Smith Folds abstains.
Okay. Trustee Phillips? Yeah. All right. Yes. Motion passed.
Recording in progress.
We know that consent, C9, it was pulled by Trustee Phillips. The remote work house. So I pulled this item, because this is not something that I think that we are ready for, the government stuff that's passed, all we can shit. If someone wants to make a motion, they can do something. No, I'm not making the motion. I'm stating why I pulled the item, but I don't want to be late for it. We've already discussed it, so someone else would like to make a motion again.
Thank you. Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the remote work policy.
Smith Folds seconds.
Are there any questions and comments? Questions or comments?
Recording in progress.
Student trustee, Miles? No? All right, we going to vote, student trustee Miles? Trustee Miles, trustee the body? Clerk, down the floor.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right, the vote.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right, trustee Phillips. There you go. And yeah. Motion passed. We are adjourned. Here on. So we're going into comments, so the board is about 2 minutes each.
Thank you. Sorry, President Christian. I have to go, and we're using my computer right now as the mode to communicate with the public. I was wondering if maybe you or Dr. Hurst could unmute so that people can hear board member comments. Thank you.
Student trustee, do you like to say something? Trustee Miles?
Hello, this is my first board meeting. It's quite a ride. Everything went haywire and I'm very confused. But I feel like that's going to be part of the journey. I'm excited to be working presentation as I'm constantly having to ask for things to be explained in terms I can understand. If the presentations provided could be more descriptive and be put per se in layman's terms, because there's a lot of jargon and there's a lot of jargon and there's a lot of jargon and like acronyms that I'm constantly having to ask for clarification on, so if that could be done, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
President Christian, point of order.
Go ahead.
We need to look at the chat. We need to make sure that our translator is able to hear us clearly. So there may be a problem with that part of it. It says, would it be possible for every individual to open their mic when speaking to make sure that we can clearly hear? Dr. Hurst, can you accommodate to make sure we clearly hear what everyone is saying? Thank you.
Would you like to repeat what I said? The entire thing? Okay, well, hi again. It's been quite confusing. I don't know if everyone else can hear it, but there's been a lot of technical difficulties and a feedback error. They can't hear? Yeah. Oh, you can hear now. Can you turn your microphone on? It causes a lot of noise. Can you use your
President Christian, we can hear Trustee Miles. We could hear her. We could hear that one. Whatever was just happening, we could hear it.
Okay, great. Okay, what I was saying was, thank you for having me. I do wish that things be put in layman's terms, in terms of like the presentations, because I know I'm very confused and I'm wondering if anyone else in the public is also confused with a lot of the terms being used, as there are a lot of acronyms that aren't ever actually explained. Feedback again. Other than that, thank you for having me.
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. Well, this was my first board meeting. I had to say a lot of things happened that I didn't think would happen at the first one, but it's been an interesting experience and I hope to grow and learn through the next few months of the semester. Thank you for this chance to be here.
Say it again.
Trustee Smith Fall.
Thank you, everyone.
Closing
Thank
comment.
you. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me, President Christian?
Go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you so much. Everyone, welcome back to a brand new school year. We have a lot to do. We need to keep the same energy that we have about budgets and allowing a full discussion and conversation when we're talking about schools, teachers, safety, staff, curriculum, traffic, transportation, and facilities. We have choice when it comes to what we decide to value as a board. The question is, do we have values? We have the choice, but do we have the values to say what this district is supposed to look like and what we want to center in all of our conversations and our votes? Our vote is our value. Our sites, our teachers, our admin are already saying help. It is the second week of school. They already need us to come in and make sure that we're providing the resources for them to be successful. Burnout is real. We need to have a freeze on all consultant hours. Each contract must come before the board. We need to have very clear conversations about traffic and facilities. These kids are out here and some don't have shade at their sites. We need to make sure that we vote to have study sessions so we can talk about the budget in depth and in layman's terms so everyone is on the same page. We cannot have these high-level conversations and expect that we have everyone on the same page without doing the work to ensure that everyone has a working definition of what we're talking about. I was in a kindergarten classroom this week, and what I understand to be true is that we need to have kindergarten readiness assessments. We need to have facilities that match the size of the people who we are trying to serve. The kindergarten classrooms, if their potties are too big, their little heinies fall in. We need to make sure that we have more adults in the classroom in kindergarten and TK and first grade, at least for the first 3 months of school, so they can get adjusted to this new environment. We need to make sure that we're talking about our older adults. August 21st was National Senior Citizen Day. We have to do a better job of including everything from TK to adult ed, including our students in transition. Thank you for the opportunity to make public comment. I look forward to having a robust year on the board. Thank you, colleagues.
All right, thank you. Trustee Phillips. Thank you. So first, I would like to welcome the new student board members. I'm very glad that you're here. So, Ms. Panya, I look forward to working with you, and Ms. Miles, I look forward to working with you as well. I agree that tonight was a riot. And I'm also particularly happy to hear someone else up here say yay in answer to votes, because I sound strange when I'm the only one up here saying it by myself. I want to just clarify my discussion around October. I am not suggesting by any means whatsoever that we lay off anyone in October or November. What I think we need to do in October is begin an honest discussion about what our staffing needs actually are. Honestly, like, what do we need? What do we want in this space, and how do we want to do it? And I think that honestly will, if we have an honest discussion, I think that will resolve issues. And any layoffs or reductions that we end up doing, in my opinion, need to come after a discussion around what our real staffing needs are. I think that's the base level discussion. I want to let folks know that I've restarted my office hours. So I'll be meeting with the public on Fridays from 10 to 1. If you would like to have, this is pretty much every Friday. So if you would like to meet with me to discuss district matters, feel welcome. Email me at mr.phillips@wccusd.net. That's mister.phillips.net. Thank you for the meeting.
President Christian, before you start, I have a point of order.
Go ahead.
Make sure that we put the timer. I can't see the timer. I'm sure that there's a timer being used for the board there. I saw my timer. So make sure that we have a timer all across. I'm not sure if you guys have a timer, but I had a timer. So we want to make sure that that's equitable. That's it. I look forward to your closing comments.
All right. All right, so I'm just gonna be real brief. First, I just want to welcome everybody back into the school year. And I know we face many challenges, but we got to keep our focus on the right things and making sure that we stay, true to who we are. And also, I want to say to the student trustees, welcome and thank you for serving and being part of with us on the board. And like I say,
You know, we face with many challenges, but you know, when the team stays together, the team is able to make good things happen. So, so I want to welcome everybody back and thank you, everybody. Have a good evening and have a beautiful day on tomorrow. Thank you. And we are adjourned. At 11.